campfire, strumming along with our favorite lyre. Adventure call, the quest awaits, your destiny's in the hands of the fates. But never fear, we're all friends here, we'll have your back when danger's near. Come with us through the pages as we unravel a tale for the ages into the Percy-Verse.
Hello and welcome to the Percy-Verse Podcast. I'm Alisa.
And I'm Anna. Don your helmet and grab your sword because today we're discussing The Lightning Thief, Chapter 8, We Capture a Flag. So exciting!
I know. We're finally getting truly into everything.
Yes.
And I feel like it's been a couple of chapters now where we keep on being like, and we finally get answers,
Yeah.
This is like that we get the last remaining answers that we've been waiting for since, that we've been waiting for since kind of like the very beginning of the book or those first couple of chapters. But yeah, it's so exciting because this feels like we had the calm before the storm, and now we are going to be in the storm.
Yes. Like, this is the chapter that propels us forward, but also it's the, like, we're at camp chapter. Like,
yes.
The other thing that's really cool about it is we do get to actually experience Camp Half-Blood in its sort of, like, best form and in training mode and capture the flag, and like that's such a classic Camp Half-Blood activity. So I feel like I've just been waiting for capture the flag every single chapter. We finally made it. I went in today like, yes.
Well, and just like that normal camp life, like, because up until this point something extreme or drastic or intense has happened, and this is finally that, like, okay, we had that nice evening and now we're experiencing like multiple days of just like regular routine
camp life. Just regular sword fighting, volcano climbing,
very regular activities
that anyone would do at summer camp. It's really exciting. And even the beginning, the first sentence is, the next few days I settled into a routine that felt almost normal, if you don't count the fact that I was getting lessons from satyrs, nymphs, and a centaur. And I'm like, A, fun. B,
absolutely,
finally. Like, I feel like Percy hasn't caught a break since the beginning of the book. Like, he has just been running from monsters and reeling from traumas and confused and all the many things we've been talking about. And so it may be a magical layer that is unusual, but he finally gets to settle in at Camp Half-Blood. He's taking ancient Greek from Annabeth, and they're talking about gods and goddesses in the present tense, and he's like able to read ancient Greek, and like we're kind of getting that dyslexia explanation, doing outdoor activities, and so and he's just going through and like trying to find what he's good at, like what should I do archery, should I do sword fighting, like all these things, and you're like, like that's what you would do at camp, is you would go to all the classes and you'd be like, okay, I want to be really good at one of these, because that I feel like is such a like a common or like normal thing to want when you're at a place like that.
Yes, absolutely. The thing that really stood out to me about the ancient Greek was that it's private lessons with Annabeth. It's like one-on-one. He's the only kid.
Well, it's like
in that
remedial.
class.
It's like remedial ancient Greek. Like, everybody else has been doing this for a while, and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing.
It then made me wonder. I was like, okay, so when every new kid comes to camp, like, did Annabeth just become the, like, well, you go to Annabeth to learn ancient Greek?
Maybe she's particularly interested in Percy Jackson. Or maybe
like,
Chiron
did she go to
asked her to do
Chiron?
it.
I feel like at this point, I feel like Chiron probably asked her to do it. Because honestly, the other thing that really, and I'll get more into it later on in the chapter, but this was really the chapter where I was like, okay, I want to know everyone's theories, like these actual characters' theories at this point in the story of who they think Percy's dad is.
Totally.
Because I feel like Chiron, between the fountain and the bathroom, has to be like,
should
okay,
be
Poseidon,
it. Yeah.
you did it.
Yeah.
You did it, man. You know, like,
yeah.
And so I was kind of wondering, like, okay, did Chiron, because he has this working theory, go, okay, I think Percy should get one-on-one lessons with Annabeth? Like,
right.
Was Chiron kind of behind that, or
Annabeth might, I mean, we learn what her theory is at the end, and which is interesting. And
I know.
and I think that, like, she's still, if she's thinking big three, she still thinks this might be a person who she could go on a quest with. So she also might have volunteered just to, like, from the strategic perspective of being like, hey, if I build some rapport, do some, like, ancient Greek lessons, like, maybe when the time comes, I'll be able to go on this quest. She's not wrong.
Yeah, so absolutely.
That's a possibility. But yeah, oh man, poor Chiron. Because when Percy tries archery,
I know.
He ends up getting a straight arrow in Chiron's tail. I'm just like, ooh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
No, I know.
That's rough.
This reminded me of, I think if I'm remembering this correctly, of, like, Frank's experience. Because doesn't Frank have the experience of, like, he's trying all these things to desperately figure out his lineage, and, like, nothing is clicking. Like,
he's great at archery, and he doesn't want to be. Like, he is like, oh, I don't like that. That's not a real weapon. I feel like his grandma was like, that's not a real weapon. Totally.
But yeah, it reminded me of that and made me think of that. But then also I feel like it is such a classic, like, fantasy experience of, like, okay, you've been inducted into this fantastical magical world where people have special gifts and abilities either based on their lineage or something else, and that experience of being like, okay, what's mine? I don't know what mine is, so I'm gonna go around and try everything out, you know. And then of course as a main character you have, like, the special thing that no one's had in 1,000 years or whatever,
or a forbidden thing or whatever. Well, there's sort of this added layer too, right? Like, anyone would want to be like, oh yeah, what's my skill? Like, do I have a special talent at something? Most people wouldn't be like, and my special talent might reveal who my dad is. Like, I'm like, oh, that's a whole other pressure of like, if I'm not good at this, that means something. If I'm good at this, that, like, means something about me. And, like, we might, as, mere mortals, put that on ourselves anyway. But, like, in this case, there's really a lot riding on, like, what's your special talent? What's your special skill? Like, and he's thinking about that. He's like, all I'm good at is canoeing, and that's not really fighting. And it's like, water, dude. Common denominator.
I know. It's like the third. That is what now, like, the third instance, right? Because it's like fountain with Nancy, bathrooms with Clarice. He's excelling at canoeing. I'm like, which god is associated with water, Percy?
And he doesn't even know yet the story about the big three not being able to have kids. So it's not like he's dismissing that or discounting that for that reason either.
Totally. Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. But we're not good at it. I really love the line where he talks about not being good at foot racing, and that it was a little humiliating to be slower than a tree.
Yes.
That's pretty funny.
No, I know that, and because that then immediately made me think of the Ents from Lord of the Rings, like, just moving so slowly, being like, I'm not even I'm faster than a tree. Yes. We do get this funny kind of, like, in, like, written montage, essentially,
really
of, like, all the things that he's trying, even wrestling, and he wrestles with Clarice, and she absolutely pulverizes him, as he says. I continue to think, her saying, her mumbling in his ear, there's more where that came from Punk. I'm like, okay, Clarice, we're not good at the verbal sparring. Like, we might be good at the physical sparring, but we are clearly not good at the verbal sparring. And then yeah, we continue on, and he's like, okay, I'm not as strong as the Ares kids. I'm not as good as at archery as the Apollo's kids. I don't have Hephaestus' skills with metalwork. Doesn't have a talent for vine plants.
Which he's happy about. He's okay with
that. Yes, understandably so.
Understandably so.
And Luke tells him that he might be a child of Hermes, a kind of jack of all trades, master of none. But Percy gets the feeling that he was probably just trying to make him feel better. And he didn't really know what to make of Percy either. Yeah. And I keep on coming back to just really wanting to know, like, at what point did Luke kind of get the instruction from Kronos of, like, Percy's the one we're going to pin, like, all of this on?
I think this chapter tells us that he already knows.
Yes, that he already knows that. But I'm like, because of the hellhound that comes.
Later. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I read that and I was like, oh, that answers our question. Like, he knows.
But I'm like, at what point prior? Because we're in the spirit of I really wish I could know, like, exactly what point that was in Luke's brain to know, like, which of his kindnesses, like, that Percy experiences as kindness, are genuine. I mean, I
feel like he kind of villain monologues in the last chapter, so maybe we'll find out then if he when. I just don't remember. Everyone listening who knows is like yelling.
Is probably yelling at being like,
But I'm sure at the end we'll definitely be able to go back and know, because I think he does kind of like have a villain monologue at the end. Yeah, with the like, scorpion thing. But yeah, he definitely knows at this point. I'm not sure how much earlier. And this chapter kind of. But even like,
that. I wonder, like, how much, like, is Luke just kind of thinking at this point of Percy is like, okay, this is, the camp where we're going to pin this on, or does Luke have a sense of like, oh, there's something bigger at play happening here? Like, when he says, when Percy gets a sense that Luke doesn't really know what to make of him, like, I feel like I trust Percy's, like, how he kind of reads people, to be like, for that to be kind of a genuine moment of like, Luke maybe really doesn't know who Percy's dad is. Right. And it's just interesting, this kind of like, he does help Percy out, but all while having this like massive ulterior motive of, and I'm going to pin this giant thing on you so the gods will fight each other.
Right.
And Kronos will like take over. So it's just Luke is like managing so many things.
Yeah.
He's spinning a lot of plates at the same time.
He is spinning a lot of plates. Yeah. Luke does a really good job, I think. Almost, he's not the mastermind villain, but I think he is often as deft, at least at the beginning, as one who is able to show what he needs to show to each person. And only like that one time he lets it slip, where Percy can really see that resentment. But otherwise, I feel like, he's really keeping it together. He's really being deceptive. And I've said before, I remember the first time I read it, like, I was surprised at the end of the book that it was
absolutely
Luke, so.
And
we even get some red herring with Clarice here. Well,
totally.
It's back to back. We'll get to that in a little bit, but
I'm
like, it was back to back that you get a Luke line and a Clarice red herring like, right after it. So I think that's also interesting. In this chapter, we're introducing like a little bit of like, there's a spy in camp, or like there's something devious, and it's like right before we're about to leave, so I think that's all the timing of that's really interesting. But it would be interesting to know what everyone's theory is at this point, for everyone who doesn't, all the different characters, who they think Percy's godly parent is. And I think, he says, in spite all this like uncertainty and trial and error and getting an arrow stuck in his mentor's tail, which he liked camp. He got used to the morning fog over the beach, which sounds really pretty, the smell of hot strawberry fields in the afternoon, and even the weird noises of monsters in the wood at night, which is kind of funny and also would be hard to get used to.
That's the like Camp Half-Blood White noise.
Right,
machine,
it's just like monsters.
It's just...
monsters and like the trees rustling. And he's like got his routine with eating and putting his food in the fire. He tries to feel some connection when he does that, and he never does.
Yeah.
And he's still thinking about, he's not trying to think about his mom too much, but he still has his theory about going to the underworld to bring her back. And then it gets really interesting. At the end of page 108, he says, I started to understand Luke's bitterness and how he seemed to resent his father, Hermes. So, okay, maybe gods had important things to do, but couldn't they call once in a while, or thunder or something? Dionysus could make a Diet Coke appear out of thin air. Why couldn't my dad, whoever he was, make a phone appear? And I was like, good point, Percy Jackson. Good point.
Well, and I think that's why it's so, like, the resentment builds, I think, so easily and so quickly in so many of the demigods.
Totally.
Because okay, you are a literal god who can perform miracles, who can do magical things, you can transform into anything, you can appear in the blink of an eye, like you can do these otherworldly things, but you can't come and talk to me. You can't even at least just throw a symbol above my head to say that you are my parent. It does, like, it makes so much sense as to why Kronos was able to recruit so many demigods to his side. Because, I mean, if you can make food and drink and all these things just appear out of thin air, it's like, well, how hard is it to just be like, hey, I'm your parent?
For sure. Yeah, as at a bare minimum. And we know they're learning about the gods and goddesses as part of their curriculum. So also they're learning about all the amazing powers that they have. And so, naturally you're like, and so where are you? Why can't you just show up? And, like, also all the demigods are gathered in, like, one place conveniently.
Right.
We're at Camp Half-Blood. Everybody knows about Camp Half-Blood. Like, it's protected. Zeus obviously knows because he sent Dionysus. Like, it just feels like everyone's conveniently gathered in this one spot, maybe just once a year. All the gods come down and are like, you, at a bare minimum. And go back.
Well, and even, I mean, we learned that it's kind of like for the year-rounders, like there's a bit of routine to like going to Mount Olympus. So it's like they even come to
they could just go there. They take all the kids who don't know, send them up to the top of the Empire State Building, and they all come back with a little like necklace with their little symbol on it or whatever.
Well, and I was just thinking, I think that there's this other like complicated layer to the only god that they have regular access to is one who is forced to be there as a form of punishment. Like that, who does not want to be there. Who does not want to be there, and that they would know, and all the campers would know that it is Dionysus's punishment to be at Camp Half-Blood, and therefore be like, okay, so it's a punishment.
We're a
for
punishment.
A god, to spend any time with us.
Especially for his kids. I know there's some times where like he'll clearly show that he has some affection for his kids throughout the both series, I think, but I just think that would, I don't know, is it worse to have a godly parent who is not there, or a godly parent who's there and really doesn't want to be there? I don't know, that's kind of a hard, they both suck.
But I think the not even being there is what gives Kronos that
the resentment. 100%.
That's 100%. What built and opened that door for Kronos to be able to take complete
irony,
advantage of it.
Is that like all these kids know the story of Kronos eating his kids, and I think that's also like a really interesting example of like intergenerational trauma and parenting and stuff. Is like you have gods who are actively ignoring their children, and then that makes the grandpa titan be able to come in, swoop in, and take advantage of the resentment building up in these kids, where if the gods had just broken the intergenerational trauma that they had experienced and been good parents toward their kids, then none of this war could happen.
Right. Well, because
break the cycle, people.
I think there's also, if I can kind of remember like how some of the demigods, when we meet them in later books, talk about it, is that it also almost feels like they're aware of this, like, well, I feel like I picked the lesser of two evils. That, like, both are evil, but I feel like I picked the lesser of the two by siding with Kronos, because at least he's recognizing that, you know, like, we deserve whatever he's saying that they do deserve, and he ultimately would never have given them that.
It's like it feels like the lesser of two evils when it's really just like whoever's not currently in charge. I feel like we do that a lot as humans. It's like, well, I just don't like what's currently happening, so I'll just make something different happen, and surely that will be better. And you kind of don't see like manipulation as it's happening from someone like Kronos, who's like telling you all these lies, and it could be, if you think about it for 2 seconds, they're obviously lies, but you want to hear it. When someone tells you something you want to hear, it could be very seductive, especially if you're angry at the status quo.
Oh yeah. And then it becomes very easy to forget the like actual recorded history that you know to be fact, and like
that you're learning like, about patterns all the time.
Yes.
That you know is real. Yeah.
Yeah.
True facts.
Well, continuing on in the chapter, we get to the first sword fighting lesson, which happens, we learn, on a Thursday afternoon, 3 days after Percy had arrived at Camp Applet. So we have our little timestamp. And so it's everyone from Cabin 11, and Luke is the instructor. And so they're starting with some basic kind of moves. And
it says basic stabbing and slashing.
Yes.
I really like the word basic. We started with basic stabbing and slashing, as
Not
you
complicated, just the basic. And Percy says, I guess I did okay. At least I understood what I was supposed to do. My reflexes were good. Yeah. So we kind of get like, okay, this is the first thing apart from canoeing, you know, that like Percy's kind of understanding. Yeah. But he's running into this problem where he cannot find a single blade that feels right in his hands. Yeah. And Luke is trying to help him, but also agrees that none of these plastic or practice blades are balanced correctly.
They're definitely not plastic.
Yeah, they're not plastic. They're not balanced correctly for Percy. Yeah. And so then here's where we get into the really exciting stuff, because they move into dueling in pairs, and Luke announces that he will be Percy's partner, which I think if I like put on my, okay, Luke is spinning all these plates, what's the strategy here? Yeah. It's probably a like, okay, let me size this kid up.
Absolutely.
Like, let me duel him.
I think that's definitely
so I can get a sense of like how skilled is he and how skilled do I think he's going to be. 100%. And one of the campers tells Percy, good luck. Luke's the best swordsman in the last 300 years. So,
which, wow.
You know,
and
high praise.
I guess Chiron would have had to have said that for this camper.
Right.
Like, I'm like, who's
unless
old
they
enough?
have like a really detailed record of like, this person was able to do these sword fighting moves and was this level of proficient.
It'd be hard to compare.
Oh, fully. Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah,
across
yeah,
time. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it does seem interesting. Like, I just want to know the context in which this was first said.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And it became like, okay, this is fact, that he's the best swordsman in 300 years.
And who taught Luke sword fighting?
Yes.
I want to know that,
too. I know. And Percy's kind of hoping that Luke will go easy on him, and the camper snorts, and Percy's like, okay, this is not going to be easy. And so Luke, I feel like kind of does the, you're going to learn by doing, I'm going to throw you into the deep end a little bit.
Which here, also, is this a little bit, is there some malice behind this too? Like, does he?
Yes, totally.
Is he poking at Percy by poking at Percy with a sword?
Yes.
Like, it kind of feels a little bit like it.
Yes. And so they're fighting, and with every swipe that Percy takes, he gets a little bit more battered and bruised. And Luke is telling Percy, keep your guard up, while he's like whacking him in the ribs.
See, that just feels mean. I'm like, this has to be somewhat intentionally.
Yeah, I think it probably is a real like, okay, let me see what you're made of.
Yeah.
You know? And also maybe a little bit of like, okay, you defeated the Minotaur. Like, let me see, you know, like,
yeah. Was
like
that
live
luck?
up to that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Luke calls a break. Percy's absolutely soaked in sweat. Everybody's swarming the drinks cooler. Which I'm like, do they have like mythical Gatorade or something.
Can you make it turn into anything you want to drink?
Yeah. And Percy sees Luke pour ice water on his head, and he's like, that's a good idea. I'm going to do the same thing, which he does. And he instantly feels better. It says, strength surged back into my arms. The sword didn't feel so awkward.
I love this part.
I know. So, and so then we get into like the really big moment where Luke tells everyone to circle up, and he says, if Percy doesn't mind, I want to give you a little demo. And Percy thinks to himself, great, let's all watch Percy get pounded. Because he hasn't fully kind of clicked like, oh, I feel better, I might be able to do something with this here.
No.
He's just like, okay, it's going to be a repeat of exactly what just happened.
Yeah.
And so everyone's gathering around, and he says, like, a lot of the Hermes guys are suppressing smiles, and Percy figures, like, okay, everyone's been in my shoes before, and they can't wait to see me go through exactly what they did.
Yep.
And Luke tells everyone that he's going to demonstrate this disarming technique of how to twist the enemy's blade with the flat of your own sword, so that he had no choice but to drop his weapon.
Which is a cool technique, and also interesting that what he's teaching is like more of a defensive technique rather than an offensive technique. I think that's really interesting too.
It's like, well, it's kind of both. It's like both. It's like defensive to then allow you to go on the offense. It's like disarming your enemy so that you can basically take the final blow.
Totally.
And,
totally.
Like,
but he's not teaching like a specific stab or something. Like, he's teaching you how to get the enemy's weapon out of their hands, which is just like kind of interesting that that's what he's focusing on.
And he's saying this is this incredibly difficult technique that most swordsmen have to work years to master. And he demonstrates it
really good.
Yes, he demonstrates it in slow motion on Percy, and sure enough, the sword fully clatters out of his hand. And then Luke says, "Okay, now in real time, we're going to spar until one of us pulls it off." And then we get into this description where that's just like so cool, because Percy nods and then Luke comes after him, and it says, somehow I kept him from getting a shot at the hilt of my sword. My senses opened up. I saw his attacks coming. I countered. I stepped forward and tried a thrust of my own. Luke deflected it easily, but I saw a change in his face. His eyes narrowed, and he started to press me with more force.
Yeah. And then like it goes, saying, if Luke is sizing Percy up, then this is like a moment where he's realizing that Percy has more power or more ability or strength or something than he originally thought. And it's also interesting to try to figure out, both here and later with the fight with the Ares kids, what portion of this is like Percy's innate natural talent, and what portion of this is like the one sword fighting lesson he's had with Luke. You know what I mean? Just because it's like he's doing so much good sword fighting, I feel like, in this chapter. And so I feel like some of it has to be those instincts, and just given like a few skills, he's kind of able to like Percy Unchained a little bit here and there.
No, it really does feel like this is something where like Percy is a like naturally gifted swordsman who was like always going to be good at it, but then with good instruction and the kind of like surge of power that he gets from water.
The water boost.
Yes, that's what kind of like brings him to like another level of it. But the sword is starting to grow heavy in his hand, and the balance is really not feeling right, and he kind of knows it's only going to be a matter of seconds before Luke takes him down. So he figures, well, what the heck, why don't I go for it? Because I know
just try it.
Let me just try it, because I know that he's coming for me anyways. It is a good lesson. And so Percy tries the disarming maneuver, and it says, my blade hit the base of Luke's, and I twisted, putting my whole weight into a downward thrust. Clang. Luke's sword rattled against the stones. The tip of my blade was an inch from his undefended chest. And the other campers were silent.
And then Percy,
I know.
What he does is apologize.
I know. Immediately he lowers his sword and he goes, I'm sorry.
Very like, Canadian of him.
Yeah. It's like, you did the thing. You did it incredibly well. Yeah. That's not the moment. But
I'm sure it's relatable to a lot of people to be like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah. After this whole big setup of like, it's so complicated.
Right.
It takes everyone years to master. Yeah. And Percy's like, first try, did it.
Yeah. Which I do think is very classic, sort of like hero vibes, yes. Where like, you know, the thing, like Arthur and the sword, and, you know, all these things where it's like, oh, you can do the thing that no one else can do, or that someone hasn't done in a long time, against the best swordsman in 300 years.
Right.
Like,
yes. Yes.
You know, I think I appreciate that Percy is not always infallible. Like, Percy has plenty of struggles and challenges and character flaws and all the things. But, you know, it's a hero journey. So at some point, you gotta, like, do the thing no one else can do.
Yes.
And, you know, I think that this scene has always stood out so much to me. I've always really liked it. I also always love sort of a training montage, like when Aragon's learning how to sword fight. And every book like that, I'm like, this is so fun. Like, it just makes you want to go learn something really hard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
But, you know, it's such a satisfying ending to the scene.
Yes. And what really struck me this time around reading it was that I really felt like I started to see in this scene how I feel like Percy has a real kind of bravado when he's sword fighting. Yeah. Like, you know, and his attitude of like, oh, what the heck? Like, I'm probably going to get taken out. So what the heck? Why not go for it?
Yeah.
I kind of felt, I don't know if this connection is going to make sense, but it made me think of later in the book his fight with Ares, where he's just like so willing to literally challenge a god to a sword fight, which is the most wild thing to do.
Yeah. But it kind of reminds me of the Minotaur too, though. Like, I do think it's not just sword exclusive, though I do think that helps him. I think that there is something to Percy where when the rubber, is it meets the road or hits the road?
I've always said when the rubber meets the road. Yeah.
When the rubber meets the road, like, Percy Jackson is going to do the Hail Mary, I feel like. He's going to, even if it seems really wild, he's going to try something or go for something, or like, he has that kind of bravery that I feel like is not always logical, but can be very successful because you do it with abandon. Like, you're all in, and I feel like he has the ability to go all in on an idea or take advantage and seize a moment. And that's a character trait that I think is it's common in heroes, but it is really helpful because sometimes like that's the moment to take advantage of, and not everyone would take the initiative to just do it, even like with the risks at hand.
Yeah, I really like how you particularly said Hail Mary, because I feel like that so aptly describes Percy Jackson. Like, he's always doing the Hail Mary thing. The last resort, the no one else would do this or try this, you know? Like, it makes me think of like the volcanoes with the, what are those creatures? The dog, combined with, in Battle of the Labyrinth. Oh, I'm blanking on what they're called.
Same.
We see them so many times.
I know what you're talking about. Telkines?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know how it's pronounced.
Something like
that. Something like that. When he kind of, that feels like a moment when he's like, okay, if I'm son of like Earthshaker, you know, like, let's shake some earth. Right. I'm going to do the Hail Mary that flings him to Calypso.
Totally.
But that I feel like he's, and even like his decision to like bathe in the river so that he can be like Achilles, like, I think he's always willing to do that Hail Mary, that this is the last resort.
Well, and I think it makes him like a really good foil to Annabeth, because it is not logical. Like I said, like, oftentimes this Hail Mary is not the most necessarily logical, or it's like not even something you could plan for. Like, it is about improvising and seizing the moment. And I think that is a nice contrast to have with the two of them, where you have someone who's like pretty much always going to plan, maybe not going to do as often something that's really reckless, but then someone who is very reckless and will annoy her with that. But sometimes like does what needs to be done, or like does what it feels like the only option is going to be.
Yeah.
So good.
It's so good. And Luke was just too stunned to speak.
Which I love that. I think that was genuine.
Yes. Yeah. That he really couldn't believe. 'Cause I don't think, like, I think it makes sense for Luke to be so stunned. Like, he wouldn't have really had anything that would have made him expect that Percy could do this really incredible thing. And he goes, sorry, and his face breaks out into a grin, and he says, by the gods, Percy, why are you sorry? Show me that again. But Percy doesn't want to. He says the short burst of manic energy had completely abandoned him. But Luke insisted, and when they squared up, when again, there was just no contest. The moment the swords connected, Luke immediately sent Percy's sword skidding across the floor.
He just needed another, ice on the head.
Yeah, another ice bath.
Just go pour some water on. Yeah, pour some water on your head.
Yeah. And someone, it's so funny, someone in the audience, they've just like turned into a full like spectator. Like we're no longer like the Hermes cabin also here to train. We're the audience.
Yeah, we're just the audience for this one-on-one fight.
Goes beginner's luck. And Luca praises Percy with an entirely new interest and says maybe, but I wonder what Percy could do with a balanced sword.
I wonder what indeed. He's gonna find out.
He will find out. But yeah, I like. What the note that I put here was, I'm so curious to know if at this point, if maybe Luke is thinking like, oh, maybe we can bring him to our side. Sure. Like that, wondering, like, or kind of playing both of it, of being like, okay, I'm sizing him up for if this is someone I'm going to have to fight later on down the line, but also maybe thinking like, this is someone worth trying to recruit, because I can tell he's going to be this incredible swordsman, and like is worth trying to see if we can get on our side.
Very possible. Very, very possibly. Yeah. And he will. So I think that makes sense.
Like, it made me wonder if like that was maybe the first moment where Luke went, well, worth kind of putting Percy in the column of let's see if we can make it happen.
Yeah, and maybe some of that like niceness is also like keeping that option open.
Yeah,
building a rapport.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that, because I think that would create sort of a connection that maybe you could build off.
Yeah.
And then when you add sort of, and he implants the idea of the resentment, and Percy's already kind of resonating with that, and so I'm kind of like, okay, maybe that's part of the strategy.
Yeah,
keep that door open.
Totally.
I really also like anything else about sword fighting?
I mean, it's just so cool.
It's so fun.
It really is. Like, it truly is. When I think about this, not only this first book, but when I think about this series, like the scenes that have stuck in my brain so visually. This is one of those that from the first time that I read it, I was like, this scene is burned into my brain. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. And it's like one of like the scenes for me of like this book. And also when I think about the series, the 5 books as a whole, this is one of those like standout amazing scenes for me.
I agree. I think this one always has stuck in my head too. And in general, like, Luke and Percy's sword fights, I feel like, are really epic. Yes. And it'll be exciting to read more of them, but I feel like, they really land and they really stick in your head, and then you get these rematches, and I think because the first one also is written so well, it like feels very exciting whenever you get to like have them back together at it again. Totally. Especially when Percy like has his sword and all of that in the future.
Yes. Well, and I'm actually just now realizing for myself, I think this scene was like the first sword fighting scene that I remember reading as a kid and going, ooh, I want to do that. I want to be in that ring. I want to do that. Like, I think, which is also part of why it's, I mean, it's an incredible scene, but I also think it like sticks in my brain so much because this is the first time I remember reading a like sword training scene and being like, that put me sense. In, coach. Yeah, I want to be there.
That makes sense because you were like the right age for these books, so it makes sense like that you probably wouldn't have read Eragon yet when you were 8. Because I'm thinking,
no, I had not read Eragon,
which is good. That makes sense. Yeah. But I think it's possible that I might have already read Eragon at that point. Yeah. I think. I mean, it still landed. Like the scene still really lives rent-free in my mind, all the time. But yeah, that makes sense that would have an even more like strong impact on your mind, on your psyche.
Yeah. Because the only other book that I think I remember reading at a young age that also had that same like immense impact of like I want to be in the story that I'm reading was the Magic Treehouse books. Totally. But like the kids weren't fighting in the Magic Treehouse books. They're like I just wanted to be there. Yes, and I wanted to be in all the worlds that they were going to and all of that. But I think this was, oh my God, I know they're so good. They're such good books. A podcast like this, but for the Magic Treehouse.
Oh my God.
Could just go on into infinity. There's so many
books. There's so many. And like, I want to say the episodes would be shorter, but I don't know. But they would. The way we talk.
I know. We'd probably find a way to still make them like a good, hour and a half.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But yeah, this was the first time I think I read anything like this as a kid. And it ignited my deep desire to learn how to sword fight.
We still got to make that happen.
I know. I own a sword now. But
yes. We got you a sword, but we need to get you lessons.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Whenever we launch a Patreon, one of the tiers can just be like, give Alisa sword fighting lessons.
That can be one.
That's just one of the tiers. Everybody pitch in. We need to make this dream happen. But I really like the next section because like this was very exciting. Epic scene. We're having a good time at camp. We're learning things. But I think that like one of the hearts of this book and of this series is Percy and Grover's friendship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel like we often, it's a piece of each chapter in some way or another. And so getting to like go back to have some time with Grover, we're sitting at the lake, like it's such a classic vibe. I feel like we needed this, and I don't know. I can just feel this like settling in my nervous system. We're like,
totally.
We're hanging out with Grover. We're sitting on the lake. Like, what a vibe. But, here we get the answer. I didn't remember that this was in here, but yes, satyrs would be good because we were talking about this recently.
I know.
At the climbing wall, so he's sitting with Grover at the lake, resting from a near-death experience on the climbing wall, which Grover had scampered to the top like a mountain goat, which I want to see that. But the lava had almost gotten me. My shirt had smoking holes in it, and the hair had been singed off my forearms.
Ow!
And that just sounds really painful. And also, do they not like just have a little bit of nectar ambrosia on hand, or is that like rationed, or like someone does medicine, like the Apollo cabin could do some medicine, or you would think there'd be something.
I'm sure they've got Apollo kids like on deck, just kind of like ready to go.
That's not said here. All it's saying is that his shirt has smoking holes, like this just happened, and he's missing some hair on his forearms. But they're sitting on the pier, which sounds like so nice, and they're watching the naiads do underwater basket weaving, which also sounds like fun. And I feel like it's fun given how Percy reacted to them before, and that it was like, I don't know, it's just fun to have them. They're just part of the scenery now. Like they're just there. It's just normal. It's just normal. And Percy is checking in with Grover about his talk with Mr. D. And I just think that's so sweet. It's like he remembers, even with everything going on and all of his concerns and all of his, sword fighting and everything. He's like, hey, bud, like, how you doing? How was it?
I know.
And he's just like tracking that.
Yeah, this for me, I was like, God, they're just like such best friends, you know, like they're just such pure best friends.
Yeah.
And it's just so lovely and it's so wonderful and it's so nice and it's so heartwarming to read. And just, I also really love getting to have this like quieter moment where it's the two of them talking, and it starts with a check-in and then we learn a whole ton of other things as well.
A whole ton of other
but
things,
it stays this like lovely quiet moment between these two best friends.
Yeah, I feel like you know, there's a sort of sandwiching in the chapter of like like we're at camp, we get the exciting sword fight, then we get this sort of lull, and then we get the big capture the flag. So this is sort of like the lull. It's also a little bit of the lore drop because we need like we still need to be learning things and getting information. We're gonna do a little bit of like third person narration from Grover to not reveal full truth while also telling story, which is kind of funny. But so, you know, Percy's like, is your career still on track? And then Grover says, Chiron told you I wanted to get a searcher's license, you know?
First mention of searcher's
license. Da-da-da.
We don't yet.
We don't know what it means.
You know, we don't know what it means yet, though. Obviously, we know what it means. But we have that actual term, the terminology. Here.
We hear about the searcher's license. We know what we're searching for. So now we know about protecting. We're going to learn about searching at some point. And Percy is being very tactful, and he's like, well, no. And even though he doesn't know what a searcher's license is, it doesn't seem like the right time to ask, which is just it's so funny because like Percy can be quite tactless actually sometimes. So it's kind of funny when he like the moments he chooses to be very thoughtful. I mean, okay, you could have asked. It would have been okay. But I think it's more like we didn't need to know yet. You know, and so Percy just says that, you know, Chiron had mentioned that Grover has big plans and that he needed to get credit for completing a keeper's assignment. And he asks if he got it. And Grover explains that Mr. D suspended judgment. And he said that Grover hadn't failed or succeeded with Percy yet. Their fates are still tied together. And so if Percy gets a quest and Grover goes along to protect him and they both come back alive, then maybe, not definitely, maybe he'd consider the job complete. And Percy's like, that's not so bad, right? And then Grover, blah, he laughs in a goat voice, and he says, he might as well have transferred me to stable cleaning duty. The chances of you getting a quest, ... And even if you did, why would you want me along? And I feel like Grover's journey of like self-confidence over the years is like one of the best growth arcs, I feel like, in just the whole series.
No, I love it. Like it was genuinely so incredibly meaningful for me to read because I think like when I first started reading these books, I think like fundamentally I related the most to Grover. His like anxiety, his self-doubt, his like lack of self-belief, his like all of those things. I was just like, oh my God, like this is how I feel and this is what's going on in my brain. And like, and so to go on such a like a lovely, very realistic feeling in how like slow it is journey for that Grover goes on, it's so wonderful to follow along with. And like it's also so cool to see how he comes into his own and how he discovers that he has these special talents and, you know, these things that are incredibly unique about him, and that like the stuff that felt like, you know, quote unquote weaknesses before actually were the things that made him like special and like, you know, are like strengths of his. It's such a wonderful journey. I love it so much. I love reading it every time.
Totally.
It's just like, it makes me so happy, you know, and especially then later on, like how he really steps into like leadership and like he has truly like grown up and matured.
We like get to watch
incredible
him
ways.
grow up. And like, it's interesting, right? Because of satyr development, like he is sort of developmentally similar in age, but like in some ways I think he grows up the most like out of everyone. Like he he really does mature over the series, and it does feel very, very genuine and very you know, like authentic to who he is as a person, and not like because other people are like boosting him necessarily or telling him like, you know, Percy's trying here. And like, I'm sure that you would relate to this too. Like when you're feeling this way, it doesn't always matter if someone else says you're great, you have all these skills, like you're amazing. Like that's not really gonna land. No. And I think that, you know, having it grow so authentically from himself and from his dreams, like his deepest dream, and then following through from that is really what makes it feel like so special. And even here, he's like, basket weaving must be nice to have a useful skill. Which I also feel like is funny, like the way that satyrs view nature spirits too. Because it's like, how many of the kids at camp would say basket weaving is a useful skill? Like, there'd be a hierarchy of skills that wouldn't be as high. But like when you're in the sort of like nature side of things, like satyrs, and stuff, he's like, man, that's so useful. You can carry strawberries in it. You can, I mean, he's I'm like, Grover, just wait. You have a lot of skills. And it's sweet because Percy's trying to reassure him that he has lots of talents. And that just makes him look more miserable. And they talk about canoeing and sword playing for a while and debated the pros and cons of different gods, which I was just like, what does that mean?
I know. Like, I need that conversation. Like, are they debating about, like, the pros and cons of, like, okay, if this person's your dad, like, what are the pros and cons of that? Or, like, generally, are they kind of saying, like, oh, like, you know, just, like, kind of going through the whole list?
Right. Or is it, like, a battle of the gods? Like, who would win? If we match them up together? Like, I want to know. And in general, we're about to, like, name drop some gods here, and one thing that's interesting is like, I guess we're no longer worried about saying names in this particular so what we've been told so far in this chapter is that Annabeth is teaching Percy ancient Greek, and they are discussing the gods and goddesses. Right. It doesn't say it by name, but I don't know how else you wouldn't be like, so the love one, you know, like you would probably
so the lightning bolt one,
the lightning guy. No, I think you would probably say their names. Then Percy is like asking, Grover's about to name drop Artemis and others, and then Percy's about to say all three of the big three's names, and I was just like, I was like, is it okay to say the names now? Like, what happened?
It's like, that's the god, like, hazing ritual is like, scary thunder at the beginning. Ooh, don't say our names. Then they're like, no, we don't really care.
It's really fine, actually. It's really fine. The thing is, whatever. I think it will come up again if I, you know, so I'm kind of like, anyway. This doesn't seem like a really specific rule. Maybe they're all taking a nap on Olympus and they're just not paying attention.
They're tuned into a different channel. They're watching something else right now.
Maybe they are.
You know. Yeah.
You know, Hephaestus has a lot of channels.
Yes, he does.
So anyway, Percy is asking about the 4 empty cabins, and we get to learn that the silver one, number 8, belongs to Artemis. She vowed to be a maiden forever, so we talked about this last time. So of course, no kids, and the cabin is honorary. If she didn't have one, she'd be mad, which I think is kind of funny. But
which
also,
I was like, cut to every other Olympian god,
one of whom we're going to talk
Kronos, because they're mad.
Yep, valid. But also I was like, what about the hunters? Like, my question here is, because like, maybe he's just not trying to overwhelm Percy with information, or maybe Rick Riordan didn't know there's going to be hunters yet in a future book. Like, I'm always curious with authors, is like, when do they know? Like, as someone who's writing a book, I'm like, when do they know what's going to happen in future books?
Totally. For me, this felt so like, because we have such an established pattern of people giving like a quarter of the information at a time, right, when they could say the whole thing, it goes felt with very much like, okay, but no, I would be curious to know, like, at what point he kind of knew, like, okay, whenever they come, they stay at the cabin.
Right.
Like, because I mean, you know me. When I write, I have no clue on earth what's going to happen next.
Sometimes you don't even know what just happened. And I'm like, did this just happen? Yeah. And you're like, maybe it did. That's cool.
Oh yeah, you're discovering things in my books that I didn't even know that I did.
I am. It's kind of fun. It's like my favorite thing. But then we talk about the big three. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is so meaty. It's so juicy. We've been waiting for this moment. Yes. It's so long overdue. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is Hera's, and it's an honorary thing because she's the goddess of marriage. So, of course, she wouldn't go around having affairs with mortals. Which, honestly, part of me is like, and I have not, to remind everybody, I have not read all the books in all the series.
Yes.
But I do desperately, with this line, want a Hera does have a kid book out of this line. Because I'm like, that would be so interesting. Like, everyone else breaks their, vows or whatever.
Breaks their marital. Yeah, yeah. No, I know. I have always thought that it would be incredibly interesting for that to happen. Yeah. And yeah, because I also feel like Zeus and Hera get in so many fights all the time, and have so many issues. And she, for all time, basically just like hates all of his kids because they're just like living proof that he's constantly breaking having their marital vows. Yeah. And so yeah, I have always thought it would be fascinating, even if it didn't even like result in a kid, like if she just had an affair, you know. That would be interesting. But it also like I've just always thought that it would be so interesting, like who is the person who like attracts Hera enough, like. And yeah, I've always thought that would be fascinating.
Yeah. And she does play a bigger role in the future. Like she, like, and she does sort of take on like heroes as sort of being their patron and stuff. So like that's all very interesting. Yeah. But, and I like that because we don't get to have her as like a parent or parental figure. Yes. But it would be really interesting.
It would, and I have always thought that she's an incredibly complicated figure, like, and I've in a way like sometimes always felt a little bit bad for her because because she kind of got stuck with, well, I'm the goddess of marriage, so I'm the only one who has to, because like even Athena kind of, well, but Athena even has her own loophole. She's like, I birthed them from my head, so it doesn't count. She's like, it's just an intellectual love, and it's like, girl,
but it made a physical
that's just a loophole that you found. That's just a loophole.
Yeah.
But yeah, because it feels like, it's interesting because I think to me, it feels like she is one of the gods with the least amount of agency. She feels the most like trapped in her prison of like,
she is literally trapped in a prison later.
Yes. No, I know. But it feels like she's the one who is the most like caged.
Yeah, that's like a metaphor for her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do think like even like a book from her perspective, I think would be incredibly compelling.
Totally.
Really, really interesting. I also feel like
people are writing all those retellings all the time. So.
Well, I was just thinking, I feel like I would be fascinated with how the author Madeline Miller did the Song of Achilles and Circe. Yeah. I could be fascinated to read like her book from Hera's perspective. Yeah, totally. Her take on Hera.
Official request submitted via podcast. Yeah. I will say though, the wording here, I do think that like normalizing problematic behavior with the gods is like definitely an issue. And the line that Grover says is she's the goddess of marriage, so of course she wouldn't go around having affairs with mortals. That's her husband's job. And I'm just like it's meant to be comedic, I think, a little bit, you know? Yeah. But sometimes like being so flippant about something that's really so not great. It like kind of accidentally normalizes it. And I think, it's, no, that's actually not his job. He's got a lot of jobs, but having affairs is not one of them.
Actually. Yeah.
And
well, and there is like there's more complicated layers to that in the actual original myths as well, you know,
sure.
that like this book series does like kind of brush over, I think understandably, because it's written for kids and
8-year-olds.
that would be a lot.
100%.
I think too much to put in like a kid's book.
Yes.
But it does, I think there are like many layers of things that are kind of like getting brushed over and then in a way almost like normalized in this kind of offhand, like that's her husband's job.
Yeah, because like there's an affair which can be consensual, but a lot of Zeus's children are not from consensual affairs, and I think that's what you're talking about, and that's like important to name for sure, because this is like the point of all this is supposed to be like the myths reflect humanity, and the myths are like either teaching us something or have a moral or, you know, say something about us, right? Like from back when they were originally created. And so bringing them into the present day, like, okay, so then that says something about us now. That says something, you know, so I do think it's always relevant to like how humans treat each other. And so Grover explains that when they say the big three, they mean the three powerful brothers, the sons of Kronos, which is kind of interesting because like there's more of them that are kids of Kronos, you know?
Well, but I
guess they're the only sons.
They're the only sons of Kronos.
That's true. Okay, so the sons of Kronos, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, says Percy. And that's when I was like, we can just say the names now, I guess. I guess we're just doing that now.
World's biggest thunder rolls at the background.
Yep, exactly, you would think. And after the great battle with the Titans, they took over the world from their dad and drew lots to decide who got what. And Zeus got the sky, Poseidon the sea, and Hades the underworld. And Percy's remembering his, probably his class with Mr. Brenner / Chiron. And then the obvious, he says Hades doesn't have a cabin here.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have thoughts on that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I think like, cause Grover goes on to explain kind of, no, he doesn't have a throne on Olympus either. He sort of does his own thing down in the underworld. And then this part, I was like, Grover, he says if he did have a cabin here and he shudders, well, it wouldn't be pleasant. Let's leave it at that. I feel like there's a lot of like, there's a lot of kind of like intense, almost like essentially like stereotyping / like caricaturizing, you know, of like the gods and their kids, and like, you know, if it's the underworld, then it's a cabin that's ghostly and you know, terrifying and haunted and, you know, all those things. But I think like the like kind of full exclusion of Hades. He doesn't have a throne on Olympus. He doesn't have a cabin at camp, which I think would have to mean that like from the existence of camp dating as far back as it would in the US, and then even prior, which would, you know, predate the pact that we learn about by like hundreds of, you know, that for the whole existence of this method of training heroes, Hades and his kids have essentially been like excluded.
Oh my god, is there a camp underworld? No, I don't mean that in a bad way. Like,
no, I know.
Like, wouldn't he train his kids in some way? Like,
I think they probably still would have gone with the other. I feel like it probably maybe either, I don't know, I could see it going either way of like they would have still gone to train with all the other heroes, or they would have just like trained on their own.
There's just a bunch of like Hades kids hanging out in the Hermes cabin. Because we know that like during the U.S. Civil War there was you know like different heroes, and so definitely pre-World War II when apparently Hades kids like are pitted against Zeus and Poseidon's kids. But that's why I'm like, would that be then they weren't at camp, or they all got mad at camp and you know, I'm just it's interesting.
But it's like it's sad. It's always been sad to me that it's like, well, you got the underworld, so no one's going to speak to you ever again. It's like you drew the short straw, so you don't get a throne on Olympus, you don't get a cabin at camp,
like
and you're just kind of ostracized because you're with all the dead people who we send our children to go murder.
Right. Well, and also, like, I think because it's drawing straws, like, it's not based on what they wanted and all these things. It's like, technically, any of you could have ended up with this.
Yes.
And it was random in theory. And so then it's like, Hades is not inherently a bad guy, worse than Zeus and Poseidon, I guess is what I mean.
Yeah.
Because it was random, you know what I mean?
Right,
and also, like, I will say, I think that this, if I, I always go out into, like, the meta-analysis of all the things, and I just feel like this ultimately exemplifies humans' fear of death. Like, I think that the reason, and it maybe looks a little bit different with Pluto and the Romans, but I think particularly with what Hades is associated with, I think that the human fear of death has always been strong. Like, our mortality and mortality or immortality is such a big theme in mythology. Yeah. And so I do think that, ostracizing and sort of demonizing the god that has to do with the thing that you're the most afraid of. Yeah. Makes sense. Now, for the other gods, I think they're just being mean to their brother. Because they're not going to die.
No, I know. Well, and the thing that is so, like fascinating to me is, like, okay, yes, the underworld has, like, the fields of punishment, and it has the kind of, where the ghosts just didn't do anything incredible and also didn't lead terrible lives. They're just kind of, like, stuck in perpetuity. Yeah, asphodel. It also has, is it pronounced Elysium?
Elysium.
Elysium? I never know how these things are pronounced.
I know.
Never at all. It's what happens from just reading books and never hearing audiobooks. Ever.
And I almost only do audiobooks. So.
And I'm like, I have no clue how this is pronounced. I'm making it up in my head.
I think Elysium.
But it's like, okay, so the gods are producing the greatest heroes. They all go to Elysium, but, like, no one wants to talk to Hades or have anything to do with where, like, the greatest heroes that they have, like, desired go to. It's like, what? Like,
it's like the Isles underworld of
the Isles of Blessed,
the Blessed or something like that.
But like Blest, like, is the spelling, I think. But yeah, it's like the underworld contains like the full 360.
Yes, it's like, it's not just punishment,
not the Christian,
and suffering and
like division of, like, heaven and hell and these like separate planes. It's like the underworld is the full experience of everything there is in the afterlife. Like, and then, like, Tartarus, like, but it's just so interesting to me because it's like, okay, in excluding the entirety of the underworld, you're also kind of then, leaving, like, the greatest heroes that you're the most proud of and that you,
I mean, what's funny though is, like, not funny, but what makes sense about that is, like, they're not going to visit them at Camp Half-Blood. They're also not going to visit them at Camp Afterlife, like, that's not... They just don't really care about their kids. Is what I'm getting. During or after life.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other arc that I really enjoy that Hades and then also Nico kind of go on together, and that Nico really helps Hades with is and Percy kind of helps on being on the side of, like, the included 12 gods. Of kind of starting to bridge that gap and be like, hey, like, you should not be this level of excluded. Like, that's not right. That's not fair. And in the end, they would have lost the battle had Hades not been convinced to join. They would have fully lost. And Kronos was counting on Hades dividing them in the same way that he divides their children. He's counting on the gods themselves being so divided. And in the end, it's their unity that leads to their victory.
Also a good life lesson. So many coming out of this chapter.
Wow, myths and life lessons.
Who'd have thunk it? And then Percy's asking, okay, so Zeus and Poseidon, though, had the accurate number of a bazillion kids.
Correct.
Accurate number for Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
He learned he got an A on the test that had that question. How many kids did they have? Answer D, a bazillion. And Grover shifts his hooves uncomfortably and explains that World War II, as we said, was included pitting Hades' kids pitted against Poseidon and Zeus's kids, and that they're basically too powerful, too powerful to be allowed, so that they wouldn't destroy like Earth, and or the people on Earth, and so they all agree that they won't have any more kids. And they swear it on the river Styx, which is, in theory, supposed to mean something.
In theory.
And then here's the thing, Alisa, though. The thunder booms. So I'm just like... Okay, so we can't say the god names now because saying Styx makes the thunder boom.
But I think it's because the river Styx is always on call. The river Styx is always on alert. Like, I think literally every time it's mentioned, at least that's how I remember it.
Just like every time it's mentioned,
it's
automatic
it's just thunder. Like, name and thunder will always go off if you mention the river Styx. If you it's like
it's a thing. And then, interestingly, Percy's the one who says that's the most serious oath you can make. I'm like, Chiron did a good job. Like, he imparted a lot of... Because I feel like a lot of the time in books, you're supposed to have, like, the POV of the main character, and there's supposed to be the insert for you, like, not knowing things. And then someone like Grover or Annabeth is, like, the character to explain to the main, hero, so that you, the audience, can learn. But it's kind of funny, because in this one, Percy has a lot of the answers already. It's just, like... We're hearing the conversation as the audience,
Well, and what's kind of fun and, like, special about these books, because they're based on mythology, is that, like, I'm sure there are a lot of kids who read them who, to varying degrees, came in with a knowledge of Greek mythology. Yeah. And so but then there are specific things that's like, okay, but it being brought into the present, tense, what does that mean specifically for, like, how that same mythological world works in, like, the 21st century.
Right.
So it's kind of like a fun melding of, like, you might know some things, but you don't know everything.
You might know all the things. Surprises. And I'm sure there's also kids who, like, have never heard of Greek mythology, and this is their entry point. Like, then maybe they go and, they read up on Greek mythology, or when they get to the Odyssey and the Iliad that they have to read in school, maybe they're, like, more interested or less bored by it because they're, like, it's not a have to. You might actually be like, oh, I know some of these characters. They're just not drinking Diet Coke. That's weird.
Right.
And so then Percy asks, the relevant question is, so did they keep their word and have no kids? And Grover's face darkened. And then I feel like we get, like, the, like, we change into, like, dark mode. Or, like, sepia-tone or something. And then we're, like, telling the story, like, many years ago, there was a satyr, there was a blah, 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 and he's kind of, like, telling the story.
It really felt to me, it immediately made me think of Chiron in the museum looking at the steel of the girl, and Percy's like, oh, it feels like he knew him. Like, to me, both, like, this is a much longer paragraph, but, like, they both came with that same that particular sadness that comes with, like, you're recounting something, but you're holding back the fact that you were there and present for like what you're recounting.
And it's like a tragedy.
Yes, they both had, like, that same particular type, specific type of sadness. And I was like, oh, Grover's having, like, a Chiron moment here of, like, I was there, but I'm not ready yet to say that I was there.
And it's so, I don't know, it's so sad, but we do at least get the story, which is exciting. And he explains that Zeus fell in love with a TV starlet with a big fluffy 80s hairdo. He just couldn't help himself. And I'm just like, was it the hair? It was the hairdo, I guess.
Right.
But here's the theory. So static electricity, Zeus, big fluffy hair.
Sure.
Maybe that's why he couldn't help himself. It's just like static electricity related,
I just thought it was so funny to be. It wasn't just this TV starlet.
Yeah.
You know, it was TV starlet with a big fluffy 80s hairdo.
Yeah.
Because, like, I didn't do the math, but I'm like, okay, I'm like, because these books would have taken place in, like, the very early 2000s.
Right.
So, like, it was probably just, like, in the 80s, you know, like, probably, like, late 80s or something.
I guess maybe late, because would that make Talia? Because how long has she been?
Because Talia is technically older than Percy.
Well, yeah.
Because it's 17 years ago from that present moment, and if it's like early 2000s.
Yeah, okay, so then, yeah, that would have been in
yeah,
the 80s.
So it's like late 80s.
Yes.
So instead of being like, there was this 80s TV starlet, it's like a TV starlet with the fun 80s hair.
Right. Just so you know. Also, so leg warmers. Also,
right.
like,
yeah.
Doing like an exercise video.
Yeah. Exercise.
And then we hear that the little girl's name is Talia. And it's also interesting, like, she's referred to as a little girl this whole time, which I think is like a really interesting way to set her up for us to not be expecting who we get when Talia comes out and is described and is like kind of punk rock like intensity. It's like a little girl who it wasn't her fault, and she's a tree. And it's like just wait, like rock music comes in, like it's coming.
I feel like it's both that, and also I think there is some, to me it also landed as like she was a little girl and it wasn't her fault, and these are all little kids, you know, like these are all children.
Percy's a little boy. Like, they are little children. They should not be having to like defend their lives. Like, that is but here's the thing that's frustrating, is that the River Styx doesn't punish Zeus.
Yeah.
Which you would think that it would. Zeus, by the way, gets to punish Dionysus by sending him to Camp Half-Blood. But Zeus is above reproach. Poseidon is above reproach. Hades is above reproach. Like, nothing happens to them when they break their promises. It's always their kids.
Or, like, in Hades' case, it's Maria.
Sure. Right, or their love interest.
And then also kind of like, you know, I know like in Bianca's case it was prophesized, but it also feels to a certain extent like Maria and Bianca were like the people who took the punishment for, even though I know they were born
even Bianca
the pact,
and Nico like getting stuck in time. Like, so many things like are it's the kids who get punished and not the parents, and that's super frustrating. So he brought a terrible fate on his daughter, and Percy immediately was like, that wasn't fair. It wasn't the little girl's fault. And Grover says, Percy, children of the big three have powers greater than other half-bloods. They have a strong aura, a scent that attracts monsters. When Hades found out about the girl, he wasn't too happy about Zeus breaking his oath, which, can we talk about the hypocrisy? Because at this point, Hades has already broken the oath.
Well, no, he didn't. Were born before World War II. It was that they were going to.
That's right.
It was that he was told to hide them.
That's right. He had to hide them.
And Maria was like, "Well, like, no, don't worry, my love will be fine."
That's right. And then they get
And he's like, "Please, no, come, you're gonna die." And then the lightning strike comes.
That's right.
And I think he hides them because he's like, even though they were pre the pact, I think he's just
they just wouldn't be allowed to be alive.
I think he's just worried. He's like, they're not going to survive it, basically.
It makes sense. Yeah, no, you're right. Okay, that's true. So he's mad, and he lets the worst monsters out of Tartarus to torment Talia. And then here's where
Grover...
like,
deeply unnecessary and, like, an overreaction.
Absolutely.
Again, to, like, punish her for her dad's actions.
Yeah, that's wild. But I think part of it is the way that, like, the heroes fight out the gods' battles for them, right? So like Hades wouldn't want to go on an all-out war against Zeus, right? And would probably be outnumbered if he did and stuff like that. Yeah. And so I think it's interesting he doesn't try to team up with Poseidon or something and be like, hey, he broke the oath, you know. But I think there's he's just maybe so ostracized. At that point Poseidon well, I guess Poseidon wouldn't have met Sally by that point, but maybe he was like, probably not yet.
I don't know.
He's like, I don't know. I kind of like having my eye on someone. But, so he lets the worst monsters out of Tartarus to torment Talia. And then Grover goes into his third person narration of, but it wasn't me, I promise, but it was, I'm just going to tell you about a thing I heard about from somebody. Yep. Secondhand, third-hand knowledge. So he says, a satyr was assigned to be her keeper when she was 12, but there was nothing he could do. He tried to escort her here with a couple of other half-bloods she'd befriended. They almost made it. They got all the way to the top of that hill. All the kindly ones were after them, along with a horde of hellhounds. They were about to be overrun when Thalia told her satyr to take the other two half-bloods to safety while she held off the monsters. She was wounded and tired, and she didn't want to live like a hunted animal. The satyr didn't want to leave her, but he couldn't change her mind, and he had to protect the others. So Thalia made her final stand alone at the top of that hill. As she died, Zeus took pity on her. Wow, great dad moment.
I know.
Wow. He turned her into that pine tree. Her spirit still helps protect the borders of the valley. That's why the hill is called Half-Blood Hill.
You know what this just reminded me of? And I've never connected this. Talia and Sally Jackson, essentially, like,
totally.
Emily and Percy killed the Minotaur, but Talia and Sally Jackson essentially did the exact same thing of, like,
yeah,
because Sally was like, I'm at the bottom of the hill, I will distract the Minotaur, you run and go.
Totally.
They both sacrificed themselves and ended up not dying per se, you know, like,
sure, having some kind of transformation and
having some sort of something that kept them from like fully dying and then being able to be like brought back. But
that's interesting.
They like both kind of did a similar thing in order to get two other people to safety. That is something that stood out to me when I was reading it, was like the scene is reminiscent of the scene with the Minotaur, except it's like so many monsters after you. Oh,
like, it
so
just
many.
Sounds so
all
scary.
3 kindly ones and a horde of hellhounds.
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
like we get to meet one hellhound in this, and it's already plenty scary on its own.
Yeah, well, and the part that made me just like my heart break for Talia was when Grover said she didn't want to live like a hunted animal.
I know.
Just made me think of like how many years and years and years she had just lived constantly on the run and chase, like being chased, and just like how sad it is that like she was on the literal precipice of getting to the one place where she would have been safe. But then I also thought about it and I was like, if she even had made it, she would have essentially been trapped there. They wouldn't have let her leave because they would have been like, it's too dangerous for you to leave. And there also probably would have been some awful thing in order for them to reckon with the fact that Zeus had broken the pact and, you know.
And we know that her mom isn't like a great parent, and like we find that out later. So I think that like there's also that it's that demigod trap a little bit of like, you don't want to be stuck at camp, but you don't necessarily have a safe place in the mortal world to go to, and you're kind of stuck in the middle. And when you're a child of the big 3, and that's true, then you're like extra stuck because you're extra hunted. I do think it's kind of wild that both of them made it, like Percy and Talia made it that far in life without getting to camp.
Totally.
Actually, I think that's pretty wild.
Yeah. It's very well, and it's like they both somehow made it for different reasons, because like Talia didn't make it because she had this incredibly like protective mother who was trying to do everything to, you know, spend as much time as she could with her before she had to go off to camp. Like Talia was just like making it on her own because she had to. It was very much just like she was surviving.
So she has friends, like she does have.
She
like,
eventually gets
Luke and Annabeth, and I think like in both cases there are people that kind of have your back and are like helping you. But still, it's like really old for them to like make it this far, given that they're going to attract more monsters than the average half-blood.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and then we end up kind of learning that like, well, it's an interesting comparison because both Sally and I'm forgetting Talia's mom's name right now, but both of them knew that a god had fallen in love with them.
Yes.
And they both had very different reactions to when that god left.
They did.
And handled that very differently. So yeah, there are very interesting parallels to like how that then ended up impacting both of them.
Yeah.
Because they were both of them like had a big three god fall in love with them.
Yeah, I think they had very different levels of emotional maturity to start out with.
Yeah.
You know, I think that made a really big difference in how they were able to handle that knowledge.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then the dealing with life after this god has left. And you go from...
made you feel special.
Oh my God.
Then,
yes.
Yeah, and really opposite, because Sally not only doesn't sort of lose her marbles and pine and throw temper tantrums, she goes out of her way to marry a terrible person just because the smell would protect her kid.
Right.
Which is like about as opposite as you can get from Talia's mom's reaction.
I wish I could remember Talia's mom's name so I can stop saying Talia's mom. But she goes on to... She has such a hard time dealing with it that she like makes it her sole mission to try and seduce Zeus again.
Which works.
And then works, but because she seduces him as Jupiter, and so she feels even more like, oh my God, I got him in both his Greek and his Roman forms, and she's just like completely loses it after that, and like
it kind of screws over both of her kids in that too.
It really does. Oh my gosh,
Hera and I mean she loses one. They don't get to grow up together fully. That scene,
well, not at all, because he's a
so
baby. It's so sad. He's essentially a baby when she leaves him at the park, and Talia being there, it's so traumatic. Awful and so sad.
Well, and that's all. So going back to what you were saying, all of what we're talking about, like even that, because we don't find out about that till way later. But that has already happened. Like Talia has lived through that. And so like as you're imagining this, as she's standing at the top of Half-Blood Hill, she's formed these relationships with Annabeth, with Luke, probably with Grover as well. And in that moment, it's like, I'm going to let my rage out on these monsters and see what happens, because I don't want to, like, there is so much that has piled up in my life that I can't do this anymore. Like, this is too much. I am too young for all these burdens, and I'm gonna take out everybody I can take with me. And that is one of the ways in which we were just talking about Percy doing a Hail Mary. Like, they are very similar, which makes them kind of fun, because that creates some tension with them. But
they're two sides of the same coin.
They really are.
And for that reason, they butt heads with each other until we finally like get some kind of peace and resolution from it. Like, I think the moment that Talia chooses to be a hunter and no longer like the child who might be in the prophecy, I think is the moment where they're both able to be like, okay, we have our lanes. We have our lanes. We can now kind of figure this out. But I think they're always two sides of the same coin.
Totally.
And
it
so there's
goes
always
to the
this
idea
friction.
That, like, the children of the big three are going to be super powerful and cause a lot of chaos and issues.
Because I mean, if they ended up like having more than just like butting heads friction, but truly becoming like enemies,
whole different story.
Chaos and destruction.
Kronos is over there just like, I'll just let y'all fight, because
I'll just hang back.
Don't even need a plan at this point. He should have just done that. He should have just done that. So, and then also like that Zeus takes pity on her line. I was just like, Zeus caused this problem, and like obviously didn't help her along the way with all the challenges that we're just talking about. And then it's interesting, Percy's reaction, even in his reaction, he's already comparing himself to Talia, which I think is really interesting for their future dynamic. He says the story makes him feel hollow and guilty too, because a girl his age had sacrificed herself to save her friends and had faced a whole army of monsters, and he wonders if he had acted differently if he could have saved his mother, which I think is a really hard thought to have. But also like, first of all, would Percy be turned into like a guppy in a fishbowl or something? Like how, some like kelp. What, some kelp. Yeah, exactly. Like how does that seaweed work? I'm sad. Oh, seaweed, duh. Seaweed brain, duh. He'd be turned into seaweed. But I think that
it would be the seaweed lake.
The seaweed, yeah. Just Half-Blood Lake. I think that here it's like he does have that like self-sacrificing, gene to him or like piece of him that's really strong. Yeah. And so, he's like, oh, I didn't like fully do the thing. And you're like, Percy, you did fine. Like your mom wouldn't want to be alive and you not be alive. Like she wouldn't want that. Yeah. And like he doesn't even know that she's not dead, which I feel like is a big deal. It's like, actually you're okay, so you did a good job. But yeah, I think he's been having everyone tout his victory with the Minotaur, and so it's a moment, it's a little bit of a humbling moment for him. And
I do think you saying that like in basically the first instance he really has to be able to compare himself to Talia, that he does, because that is something that ends up happening. Like after she comes back, he's like constantly comparing himself to her, and then there's like the weirdness of like he doesn't know how to be with like Annabelle, like the group dynamic, like it's this like
because they have like a pre-established relationship
into that comparison, and the fact that that starts even before she's like alive or brought back realized is like planting that like seed of this is how that dynamic is going to be.
Totally 100%. And while he's on the topic of thinking about his mother, he asked Grover if heroes have really gone on quests to the underworld. And Grover says sometimes, Orpheus, Hercules, Houdini, which I was like, every time.
Gotta know what Houdini did.
So funny.
Gotta know what Houdini did.
100%.
Why did he go to the underworld?
I want to know. I need to know.
Who's he the child of? Well, okay, we can add that to our video idea.
Add that to our thing.
Who is Houdini the child of?
I definitely have thoughts. He's got trickster energy. Yeah. I definitely have. There's a few different thoughts that have come to my mind from that. Yeah. We shall circle back. And Percy asked if they've ever returned somebody from the dead, which is a very like pointed, like he's not really being subtle at this point. And Grover is like, no, never. Orpheus came close. Percy, you're not seriously thinking, which like, duh. And Percy's like, no.
Right,
I was just wondering. I was just curious. Yeah. This is all theoretical, hypothetical. I'm just curious.
Just asking for a friend. Just a friend of mine is really curious about if anyone's been successful. Yeah. For no particular reason whatsoever at
And then he just changes the subject and he's like, so a satyr is always assigned to guard a demigod? And you're like, Percy, this is like not subtle.
You're not doing a good job. You basically asked, so I can bring my mom back from the dead, right? I can do that if I go into the underworld. You basically
Grover
all but
is
asked
like,
that directly.
Please don't think about that.
Yeah. And Grover's like not convinced.
No.
Percy has not successfully persuaded him that
now Grover's like, Percy, you're a bad liar.
Right.
How the turntables.
But then there's this really interesting interaction. So Grover answers that question. He's like, no, not always. That satyrs go undercover to a lot of schools and they try to sniff out the half-bloods who have the makings of great heroes. And that if they ever find one with a very strong aura, like someone who's a child of the big three, they alert Chiron because he likes to keep an eye on them since they would cause really huge problems. And then Percy goes, you found me. Chiron said, you thought I may be something special. And then Grover's kind of going like, oh, shoot, I shouldn't have said that. It's like, which is Hagrid.
He's like, I shouldn't have said that. What's funny, though, is the line says, Grover looked as if I just led him into a trap. And I'm just like, Grover, you led yourself into your own trap. Like, you went over, you dug the hole, you laid the sticks, you put the brush over it. Like, all he asked is, like, are satyrs assigned to guard demigods? That's it. You dug this trap yourself, my friend.
Right. And then he's like, I don't think, I mean, if you were, you'd never be allowed on a quest. I never get my license. Like, he's not doing a good job. And he's like, you're probably just a child of Hermes or maybe a minor god like Nemesis, which is like dropping her incredibly early on.
Totally.
Very important. She produces a very important child.
Also, I think like, I don't know, the whole like major gods versus minor gods. Like, I know it's like that in the Greek mythology, but I'm just like, once you meet Nemesis, you're like, this doesn't seem so minor.
She's not so minor.
It just doesn't.
Not so much of a minor god. Yeah.
But also so random, because like, why would Grover, like, of all the gods to say, even the minor gods to say about Percy, it's like Nemesis, the god of revenge. I'm like, Percy has not shown a single drop of Grover's just really off, just blabbing.
I know. This does really make me think, though. I'm like, in terms of when I like kind of zoom out to like the meta of it all, I'm like, maybe it was an incredible synchronicity that like Rick Riordan name dropped Nemesis here, like, or like did he already have the whole like 5-year plan?
That's a great question.
Of like kind of, you know, the
Michael,
the big players and the I can't remember his name. You might be right. I can't remember his name. But yeah, I'm like, Rick, I'm so curious.
Question.
Did you know, like, when you wrote this, did you know, or was it one of those like synchronicities where then when you were writing that part, you were like, oh dang,
I had already introduced this. Yeah. I would be curious.
Yeah. But then after Grover does a really poor job at trying to be like, no, deflect. Definitely not. Percy says, I got the idea he was reassuring himself more than me.
And here's where it kind of, it's like we're on the bus again. Like, it's kind of that vibe where Grover's just like going off on something. And like, you know, we're back to him not being a really good liar too. Like, oh, Grover. I really want to know at this point, like, what Grover clearly thinks he's a child of the big three. Like, I want to know, okay, which one out of three? Yeah. If everyone had to place their bets. At the beginning of this chapter, you know, we know what Annabeth would say, but what would Grover say? What would Chiron say? What would Luke say? Does Kronos already know? There are questions.
Many questions.
And
then we arrive with the main event.
Let's go.
That night after dinner, which I forgot this takes place. Reading it, I was like, oh, that's right. I forgot it took place at night.
No,
it was an after dinner activity.
That has always like stood out to me because I feel like it's weird. Like, to me, it always felt
terrifying.
Like, there's one thing which is like everyone's fighting with like armor and swords, and there could be monsters and stuff. There's another thing where like, and it's dark, like pitch black,
and you can't see anything.
It's not like they'll have headlamps or something.
Just torches.
Well, because
running
like,
with torches.
In a, you know, if you were at summer camp and you were going into the woods at night, which why? Like, maybe for some kind of camping excursion or just stargaze or something. You'd have a flashlight, you know.
Right.
But like, it's just dark, and then Clarice's spear just lights up randomly.
No, I know. So scary for it to be happening post dinner. Also, I'm like, when I'm post dinner, I want to go to bed.
Same.
I don't want to. I'm like, I'm full. I'm tired.
Like,
I'm sleepy.
My acid reflux does not need me to be running around after I've eaten dinner. Like, no, thank you.
But you know, I guess they're all 12, so they don't have acid reflux yet.
Okay. Adult problems.
Chiron, that's why he's like, Chiron, I'm the medic. I stand still.
He's
and
like,
I process
he's got the fanny
my
pack of
food.
pills, and he's like,
He's got his Tums, and he's like, okay,
he's like, I'm not running right now. Oh my god, 2,000 years of acid reflux would be hilarious.
Oh, your poor stomach. Maybe he has like extra stomachs. You know how like cows have multiple stomachs?
But horses,
you know, like maybe
he
horses don't, but maybe he has like a human one and a horse one, and maybe
that would
it helps.
be really interesting.
I don't know centaur anatomy. Like,
me
what
neither.
are the organs?
Now I want to know. Now I want to learn.
Yeah. I'm sure it's probably like slightly horrifying.
I'm sure.
But yes, it is at last time for Capture the Flag.
And he blows the conch horn, which I was like, our intro, you know, song has a conch horn at the beginning of it, because that's just so classic. And I feel like, you know, it's it has begun.
It has begun. And so first, campers yell and cheers. Annabeth and two of her siblings run in carrying a silk banner.
So dramatic. I love it.
So, I know. It's like Greek drama we're performing.
Yeah.
Yes, incredibly theatrical. Because it's a 10-foot long banner that's glistening gray with a painting of a barn owl above an olive tree.
It's huge.
Absolutely massive. And then from the opposite side of the pavilion come Clarice and her siblings with their own 10-foot long banner that's red and painted with a bloody spear and a boar's head.
Nice.
And so we have our two like team captains essentially for Capture the Flag. And this is where Luke helps us with a little exposition of saying that Ares and Athena don't always lead the teams, but often. And Percy specifically asks, so if another cabin captures one, what do you do? Repaint the flag. And Luke smiles and says, you'll see. First we have to get one. And we will see. And I was like, in this moment, Luke knows the plan. And he knows
totally.
I'm
There's
getting that
few
flag.
Clear, which I wonder if that, I was wondering later, like, if that's part of the negotiation, because it seems interesting to me. So, like, what would happen? Because, okay, so let me back up. Do you think that then at the end we're going to see the Ares flag turn into the Hermes flag, right? Do we think that next Capture the Flag, that means that Hermes and Athena are like the team captains, right? And they go against each other?
Yeah.
So is it that it's not possible if you already have a flag for one of your cabin to be the one to get the flag because you'd end up with two Athenas? Because when Luke got it, I was like, why does he get to do it? Wouldn't Annabeth want to do it? But like Annabeth already has a flag. So is it like part of the negotiation is also which cabin gets the honor of like, if you get it, you would be able to be captain next? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Isn't that interesting?
No, that's true. That's such a good point. Because I had that thought when Luke runs across the creek with it. And I was like, oh yeah, if it had been an Athena kid, then there'd be two Athena flags.
Right.
I'm like, what would you do in that instance? Yeah, but that does make sense that part of the negotiation of like, come be on my side, because we learned that like the way that the teams are decided are like the kids have to take care of it on their own. I
love that part. I think that's so fun. It's like camp politics. It feels very summer camp, very like, I love that explanation.
Well, it also feels a bit of like, you know, you're making them practice their negotiation skills. You know, they're
and more like allyship and totally.
But yeah, it would make complete sense if part of it was like, okay, come to my side and I'll guarantee that someone from your cabin gets to be the one who holds the flag. Like, that's part of it.
I feel like that might be part of it.
Because then Luke gives him a sly look as if he knew something that Percy didn't, which he very much does.
Several things.
And we get the specific thing that says the scar in his face made him look almost evil in the torchlight.
Like, yes, it did. Yes, it did. Yes, he is. Hint, 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 Percy.
Yeah. And Luke specifies that they've made a temporary alliance with Athena, which I think is very much his, like, and we're going to win and then therefore be our own, head of Capture the Flag.
Totally.
And he says, tonight we get the flag from Ares and you are going to help.
He knows.
So we get our breakdown of the teams.
Yeah.
So Athena has made alliances with Apollo and Hermes, which are the two biggest cabins.
Yeah.
So it's Athena, Apollo, Hermes. And this is where we learn that like the way that negotiation happens is that privileges like shower times and chore schedules and the best slots for activities are traded in order to get people, which so fun.
Also, it's like when you think about it, because then take a step back and it's like, why are they the biggest cabins, right? So Apollo is like known, like renowned for falling in love with people. So I'm just like, that makes sense. Like he would have the most kids. And then and then Hermes maybe also like he's a traveler, so he gets around, but then he also has he's got all of the unclaimed kids, and so then he's also the biggest cabin. So it's kind of like, it kind of makes sense. And a reminder that not all gods are having affairs when they're having kids. Because not all of them are married.
Yes. Yeah.
So
that's Athena's team. And so then we learned that Ares had basically allied themselves with everybody else. So it's Ares with Dionysus, Demeter, Aphrodite, and Hephaestus.
It seems like a really chaotic side. That's all I'm going to say. It makes sense to me that they don't win because I don't see Ares working well with anyone. And then you throw in all these like random kids and skills together and like you would need a really good leader. to make that
I feel
work.
like a really good leader could make Ares and Hephaestus work really well together,
Absolutely.
which is so ironic given that like Ares has this like perpetual affair with Aphrodite, who's married to Hephaestus.
Yeah.
But like I do think if you think about like skills wise, like children of the god of war with children of like who are essentially all like very
even both
proficient
kind
like
of brawny
blacksmiths and
yeah.
Yes. Like I think with the right leader, that would be a very powerful
For sure.
pairing.
For sure.
Very formidable pairing, especially for something like Capture the Flag.
Formidable, I like it.
No, I thank you. So yes, those are our team ups for the evening of Capture the Flag. And Percy gives this little breakdown of kind of his assessment of like the skills of the kids on Ares' side. So he says Dionysus's kids were actually good athletes, but there were only 2 of them, so we learned very small number. Demeter's kids had an edge with nature skills and outdoors stuff, but he says they weren't very aggressive. And then he does say that Aphrodite's sons and daughters he wasn't too worried about because they mostly sat out every activity.
Ay.
Yeah.
We know how I feel about this.
We know how as a podcast we both feel about this. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And even then going on to say that Hephaestus' kids weren't pretty, which I'm like,
I
know
know
that. What's his name?
Leo.
Oh my gosh. No. Well, yes, Leo, but
sure.
no, in these books.
Bergdorf.
I'm forgetting everyone's name today. Oh my god, what's his name? And he falls in love with the Aphrodite.
I know.
Charles Beckendorf. Charles Beckendorf. I was like, you know that like Charles Beckendorf is not ugly. Like,
okay. Also, for the record, Hephaestus is like thrown by Hera
off the side of Mount Olympus,
and that's why he like becomes disfigured. And it's not like he was born anyway. Obviously, we also don't
even
need
like
to be
tying like disfigurement, I'm using in air quotes, like to
yes,
like not
quotes.
being
well, that's what I was gonna say. We also don't need to be putting bodies
like,
or appearances into hierarchies, like obviously
yes.
point blank, but it's just like he's not even like if we're saying it's some sort of like genetic thing from him, that's not even like what his genes would be, so it doesn't make sense. It just like logically that doesn't even make sense. Anyway.
But yes, and we learned that there are 4 of them and that they're big and burly from working in the metal shop all day long. And Percy goes, that might be a problem.
Yeah.
And then previous episodes for my rant on the description of the Ares kids.
Yes.
But yes, then there are also the Ares kids.
Yes.
And so then we get the description from Chiron, so we kind of know what the rules of the game are. So we learned the creek is the boundary line between both sides. The entire forest is fair game. All magic items are allowed. The banner must be prominently displayed and have no more than 2 guards. Prisoners may be disarmed, but may not be bound or gagged. No killing or maiming is allowed, and Chiron will serve as referee and battlefield medic. So those are the rules.
Referee, normal thing you would hear someone say, battlefield medic. It sounds like so intense.
Yes.
Also, I remember playing Capture the Flag in elementary school gym, and it was really fun. Like, I was always so excited. So I think like having done that at least in like even just in gym class was like
totally
okay. This is a whole other level. Like we're just taking this to a whole other level of gameplay. It's so much fun.
Yes. And then Chiron spreads his hands and the tables are suddenly covered with all this equipment, helmets, bronze swords, spears.
Which question?
Oxhide. Yeah.
Is Chiron magic? Or are the tables magic and he just prompts magic? Because how does all the armor appear just because he moves his arms?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is he magic? Is Chiron magic? I need to know this. I want to kind of pay attention to other things. Because initially I'm like, I didn't think he had magic like that.
Right. And it's not like Hogwarts where it's like underneath the pavilion is an exact replica.
Not that we know of. Not that
everyone's,
yeah. I mean, there are magical, like, you can tell your glass what to give you at dinner. So there are magical items and stuff. But so
maybe the tables themselves are magic.
That's what I'm wondering. And like somehow what he does triggers them to go off. But I was just like, how did that happen? I just want to know. I just want to know how the magic happens.
Yeah. Maybe he's an actual, like in our world magician. Like he doesn't have like mythological magic.
He just does card tricks.
And maybe but he's gotten really good, and can do these big scale things.
Maybe. I don't know if that's I mean it does sort of track with like the sort of party vibes of his brethren to be like, and I do magic tricks whenever I hang out with my buddies. But yes, go back to the description.
And so Percy's like, whoa, are we seriously supposed to use this? And Luke is like, unless you want to get skewered.
Right. Which, like, honestly, 100%. Later he says if I wasn't wearing the thing, I would have
been skewered.
Yeah.
Yes. I would have been a shish kebab.
Exactly.
So, and Luke specifically says that Chiron thought like these certain pieces would fit. And he says, you'll be on border patrol. And then Percy says his shield was the size of an NBA backboard, which I think is like
gigantic.
Pretty big.
Yeah, gigantic.
Like, huge. Yeah. Like especially scaled to like your average 12-year-old boy's height.
Yes, and it's not like we're told he's tall or something.
Massive.
Yeah.
Right. And he says it weighed about 1 million pounds and he could have snowboarded on it completely fine.
Totally.
And so he hoped that nobody expected him to be able to run fast. And then his helmet, like all the helmets on Athena's side, had a blue horsehair plume on top. Ares and all of their allies had red. So a way to kind of distinguish.
Because I was like, did the ancient Greek soldiers actually wear helmets? Because I was curious, because I'm like, is it Roman or is it Greek or is it both?
Sure.
Apparently Greek warriors, particularly hoplites, wore helmets very commonly. They were bronze with a leather or fabric lining, and it was to help you against like sword blows and stuff. There are 3 types that I looked up in my very brief search. A Corinthian helmet, an Attic helmet, and a Pylos or Pylos helmet, which was mostly worn by Spartans. And apparently they did have crests of horsehair that helped you identify like your allies on the field.
Oh, wow.
Battle.
Wow.
So like that's all accurate.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
Wow.
Kind of fun.
The more you know.
The more you know.
So yes, everyone, Annabeth then yells blue team forward and everyone cheers and they're shaking their swords and they're following her down the path to the south woods. And the red team yells and heads off to the north. And Percy manages to catch up with Annabeth and goes, hey, she's like, great line.
Yep.
Hey. And she's just marching. And Percy's asking what the plan is. And then he asks if she's got any magic items she could loan him.
Which I think is so funny.
And I know, because he's being like unserious about it, but then her hand drifts toward her pocket as if she were afraid Percy had stolen something. And I'm like, because she does have a very
little hand.
Yes, a very strong magical item. And all Annabeth says is just watch Clarice's spear. You don't want that thing touching you. Otherwise, don't worry. That they'll take the banner from Ares, and she asks if Luke has given him his job, and he's like, border patrol, whatever that means. And she says it's easy, stand by the creek, keep the Reds away, leave the rest to me. Athena always has a plan.
Yep.
And then she kind of leaves him in the dust.
Keeping some info to herself about said plan.
Yes. Yeah, and Percy's just kind of like, okay, I'm glad you wanted me on your team. Feeling very appreciated in this moment.
Super special.
He said sarcastically. And so we get this description that it was a warm, sticky night. The woods were dark, with fireflies popping in and out of view, and that Annabeth had stationed Percy next to a little creek that gurgled over some rocks, and then she and the rest of the team scattered into the trees. So he's fully on his own, standing completely alone. And he says that he felt like an idiot there in his big blue feathered helmet and his huge shield. Yeah. And this bronze sword.
Standing there in the dark.
Yep. And the sword that, like all the other ones, felt incorrectly balanced. He says the leather grip pulled on his hand like a bowling ball.
Yeah. Ouch.
And this part cracked me up because he goes, there was no way anybody would actually attack me, would they? I mean, Olympus had to have liability issues, right?
Like, they don't care, man.
They don't.
As
I know.
it
It's like,
has
you
been
got to go back to those
previously.
myths, Percy. They do not care about the safety of their children.
Nope.
Not one bit. And so then Percy hears from far away the conch horn blowing. He hears the whoops and the yells in the woods and the clanking of metal with kids fighting. So it's clear that the game has begun.
Yes.
And he sees a blue-plumed ally from Apollo race past him like a deer.
I'm like, how did he know it was Apollo? That was my only question.
I know.
Just because he was nimble.
Like, just too fast. And the kid disappeared into enemy territory, and Percy's like, great, I'm just going to miss all the fun per usual.
Which, hold on, can I ask a question about that? Because I was like, does he... So I feel like Percy's almost always in the center of whatever's happening.
Right,
Maybe it felt fun for him, but like...
That's what I was about to say. I feel like he's always in the center when he doesn't want to be.
Right.
When it's like... But when it's like, oh, it'd be fun to,
he's like not feeling
be a part of Capture the Flag. He's not included, but then it's but then Clarice and, 5 other Aries
Make
kids
him included.
Are like,
he's about to regret that.
Yes. But before they show up, he heard a sound that sent a chill up his spine, a low canine growl somewhere close by.
Yeah.
He raises his shield instinctively, getting the feeling that something was stalking him. So this tells us that, like, prepped and ready to go for Capture the Flag was this hellhound that was summoned by Luke.
Which also, it's interesting, is it that scared of the Aries kids? Like, why doesn't it attack here? Or has it been instructed to attack at the end? I don't know. I'm just curious, like, why it doesn't attack here.
I know. It might be because the rest of the Aries kids come out, but it could tear through all of them.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, there is a version where I don't know, even like maybe there's a version where they're actually wanting to see if Percy gets claimed via being put in a situation under pressure. Like, I don't know. Anyway, I was just curious. I was curious about why.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't attack yet.
Like, what is the purpose of bringing the hellhound? Like, is it to force a claiming?
Like, that's possible. It also could just be... I do think there's an element of, like, wanting to sow seeds of doubt at the camp. Like, I do think that there is, like, a wanting people to think there's a traitor at camp. Like, I do think that that's part of the manipulation, because when we get there, Clarice is going to be like, it was Percy or whatever, and then that's like a red herring about Clarice. So there is an element where I do think, like, they have to want people to think that there's a traitor. Yeah. Which is kind of like a classic tactic of war, to make people distrust each other.
Totally. But yeah, it is a good question as to, like, okay, so then why does it wait until... Because it waits until everybody's present. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's that it's, like, somehow was instructed to wait until all the kids and Chiron are present so everyone can witness. Yeah. Like, it's not secondhand stories of, oh, it was a hellhound. And people are like, are you sure? That's true. It's like everyone was present to witness.
Like, it could get... It would be more risky or, like, less effective if it strikes with Chiron, like, everybody there. I don't know. You're probably right, though. But I think
because I think if the point is to sow those seeds of doubt, then you would want 100% of the people there to witness that somehow a hellhound came, and the only way for it to have come was for someone in the camp to have summoned it. Mm-hmm. Like, it makes it very... There is no doubt about the validity of the story because everyone was there to see it. That would be maybe, like, the reason why it waits. Which then I'm like, I guess hellhounds are really good at taking instructions.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. Like, it's really interesting that it even has that ability to be so reserved here. Yeah. But either way, we have 5 Aries warriors coming yelling and screaming out of the dark. They're not very subtle. They're just coming in, yelling and screaming. But Percy is by himself. Yeah. And Clarice is brandishing a 5-foot-long spear. And its barbed metal tip is flickering with red light. And this is the wildest weapon. And like when Chiron just says like all magic items are allowed, I'm like,
right.
Again, just like the level of negligence at all of these schools and camps and things for kids where they can just go ham at each other. And ooh,
I know.
That's wild. They charge across the stream, and Percy said he could run or he could defend himself against half the Ares cabin. So he chooses to fight because he's Percy, and he manages to sidestep the first kid's swing, but they're not the Minotaur, so he can't just keep sidestepping. And also I appreciate that it's not like like a movie where there's 5 bad guys, and then they attack the main character one at a time, and you're like, that's super realistic, right? That's how
everyone's waiting their turn, even though they fully circled the person. It's
even though like they're completely outnumbered.
Wait till you're free. I want your
in
undivided
this case
attention.
They surround Percy. I'm like, yes, that is what would happen. And Clarice thrusts at him with her spear, and he deflects it with the shield because his shield is as big as a basketball backboard. So it's like it's the size of him. But he finds out that it is an electric spear, which is so OP, and
because
he feels
his
a painful
arm goes
tingling.
Numb.
That's rough.
Yeah,
that is rough. And then they're not done. Another Ares guy slams him in the chest with the butt of his sword, and he hits the dirt. And he says they could have kicked me into jelly, but they were too busy laughing. And so it's kind of that moment, like that bully moment where once you're outnumbered and you're on the ground, like they're going to take their time and revel in it kind of thing, right? Not just like go for it. So Clarice says, give him a haircut, grab his hair, which is interesting. So like, has his helmet fallen off, or like they're going to take it off? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. He's wearing a helmet. He gets to his feet. He raises his sword, but Clarice slams it with her spear. Sparks are flying. Then both of his arms are numb. I'm like, ooh, he's just like out for the count. And then Clarice, I think, really needing some vengeance after the bathroom incident is like, oh, wow, I'm scared of this guy, really scared. And I'm just like, I think you are. Like, I think you're actually being honest in this moment and using, like, sarcasm as a cover.
Right.
Because I think that's why you needed to bring half of your cabin with you to attack one person who's kind of just helplessly standing next to a creek and, like, kind of just got here. And then the other sibling just comes out and says it. But see, because he says the flag is, the other way. We don't care about the flag. We care about a guy who made our cabin look stupid. And I'm just like, I feel like sometimes kids don't just like come out and say stuff, but this kid just came out and said the thing. And then Percy can't help himself in this moment. This is that impulse control issue. And he says, you do that without my help. And he even knows it probably wasn't the smartest thing to say. But Percy can't help himself. No, he can't. 2 of them come at him, and he's backing toward the creek, which good. I'm glad you are, because if you go the other direction, bad things will happen.
Reading this part after knowing everything, I'm always like, just get to the creek. Just get
to the
creek.
All
you have to do is get to the creek.
Just get to the water. And he tries to raise the shield, but Clarice is too fast, and her spear struck him directly in the ribs. And this is where he says if he hadn't been wearing an armored breastplate, he would have been shish kebabbed. And like, ouch. And the electric point just about shocked my teeth out of my mouth, he says, which just like sounds terrible. It's just like painful to read. And then one of the cabin mates slashes his sword across Percy's arm, leaving a good sized cut, and seeing his own blood makes him dizzy, and he goes, no maiming, which is like, no fighting.
Like, wait, no,
because at the beginning Chiron's like, you can't kill people and you can't maim people, right? But it's Ares, and, God of War. Like, I think the kids are a little bit bloodthirsty over there, for fighting.
And in particular when they're like out on a revenge mission.
This is vengeance. And he goes, oops, guess I lost my dessert privilege.
Which I'm like, if you have established no maiming, I feel like you need to do more than like,
that's what I'm
you
saying.
Don't get dessert.
Exactly. Like, if that really is the consequence, then it's not a rule. Then it's not effective. You have to take away things that people like would actually
also don't use like food as punishment. Also, like 100%. Don't be like, you don't get food for doing a bad thing. It's
100%.
Like, no, it should be like, you have to, I don't know, like
clean the bathrooms every single day for a month,
or like help the harpies out with something.
Or honestly, like you can't fight the next capture the flag.
Totally. If you do it, your whole cabin sits out. Your whole cabin doesn't get to participate in capture the flag.
Something like that would make people not do it.
Yes.
So
yeah,
that's, and it's not taking away something from someone that's, a basic need. And I am saying dessert specifically is a basic need, not just food.
Yes. Yeah.
For the record. But then he makes the fatal mistake, this Aries kid.
Yes.
And he pushes Percy into the creek.
And he lands with a big old splash. And the tides have quite literally turned.
Oh, the tides have turned.
And in this moment, they all laugh, and Percy says, I figured as soon as they were through being amused, I would die. But then something happens. The water seems to wake up his senses as if he just had a bag of his mom's double espresso jelly beans.
I love that. We get another like little... Even in this moment, right? Like where we think we're facing death, like we just get this reference to a sweet, funny, cute little thing. And it's just, Percy's always got one of those. I love that.
Always. And so Clarice and her cabin mates are coming into the creek to get him, but he stands to meet them and he knows what to do. He swings the flat of his sword against the first guy's head, knocks his helmet clean off, hits him so hard. He says, I could see his eyes vibrating as he crumpled into the water, which, that
hurts me like the teeth thing.
Yep. And then he takes out another two guys, takes out the fourth kid, who didn't really look like they wanted to like attack, but
at this
Clarice
point.
Clarice keeps on coming, the point of her spear crackling with energy, and it says, as soon as she thrust, I caught the shaft between the edge of my shield and my sword, and I snapped it like a twig. And we don't know now, but we learn later that this was a gift from Ares.
Yeah.
He broke a spear that Ares
This is not going to help
himself.
with their dynamic. It's just not. But it's a really smart move. It's a really good move.
Very smart.
And her insult back is kind of funny because she calls him a corpse breath worm. Just like really
again, she's not great at the verbal sparring.
Really not.
She's not great at that.
And he manages to smack her between the eyes with his sword butt and sends her stumbling out of the creek. And I'm just like, dang, Percy, like he really powered up in that creek.
He really did, yeah. And then in that moment, he hears yelling and elated screams and sees Luke racing toward the boundary line with the red team's banner lifted high, and he's flanked by a couple of Hermes guys covering the retreat and a few Apollo's kids behind them fighting off Hephaestus's kids.
Yep.
And when all the Ares kids get up, Clarice shouts, a trick! It was a trick! Which I just, first of all, want to say, you brought half of your cabin to do one thing.
Yeah.
Like you specifically chose, instead of focusing on trying to get the banner, we're going to take half of our cabin.
Right.
And our team, like their team is made up. No, and their team is made up of like small cabins. Like Ares, we find if 5 is half, they've got 10. But like we learned that Dionysus only has 2. Like Hephaestus, I think only had 4. Something
also,
like that. Like
it seems like Athena is like guarding on this side because none of the Athena kids are mentioned as running with Luke and the flag. It's Apollo and Hermes kids.
Yeah. And then Hephaestus kids are chasing them. So it's like, okay, maybe the Hephaestus kids were guarding the Ares flag. But when she's like, it's a trick, it was a trick. I'm like, he was standing guard on the edge of the creek. You were the one who chose to bring you and 4 other kids.
Yourself.
Yeah.
You brought this on yourself. It's mostly a trick against Percy, actually.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we get to see that when Luke runs across the line, the boundary creek, the red banner shimmers and turns silver. The boar and spear were replaced with a huge caduceus, the symbol of cabin 11. So now we know what's going to happen on the next Capture the Flag. And everybody on the blue team picks Luke up and starts carrying him around on their shoulders. Chiron cantered, great alliteration, out from the woods and blows the conch horn. The game was over. We'd won. And then Annabeth reveals herself.
Yep. She, he hears Annabeth's voice right next to him in the creek, and she says, "Not bad, hero." And he looks around, but he can't see her.
Yeah.
And she says, "Where the heck did you learn to fight like that?" And then the air shimmered, and she materialized holding a Yankees baseball cap, as if she'd just taken it off her head. Which she had. Which I love. Because it turns her invisible.
Like every time, if I'm remembering correctly, every time we talk about the baseball cap, the air shimmers. And I just have always loved that word as a description word for this. And like it's fun because it's like a consistency of like how it functions, you know?
Yes. Yeah, totally. And Percy rightfully is feeling himself getting angry.
Yeah.
He's not even fazed by the fact that she was just invisible. He says, "You set me up. You put me here because you knew Clarice would come after me while you sent Luke around the flank. You had it all figured out."
Yep.
And Annabeth just shrugs and goes, "I told you. Athena always has a plan." And Percy, still rightfully angry, is like, "A plan to get me pulverized?" And this is where she says, "I came as fast as I could. I was about to jump in, but you didn't need help." To which I'm just like, okay, so your backup plan was I come fast enough so Percy doesn't die?
Right. I mean, I appreciate that she was coming. She didn't just leave him on his own.
Yes.
But he got plenty hurt before she jumps in. So, like at what point does she get there?
Right. Because it's like if he hadn't stepped in the creek, he would have been screwed. Like the only
or
thing
if they
that
hadn't
saved
stopped
him,
to gloat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
And then she looks at his wounded arm and asks, "How did you do that?" And Percy, not noticing what has happened, goes, "Sword cut, what do you think?" And she goes, "No, it was a sword cut. Look at it." And the blood was gone. Where the huge cut had been, there was a long white scratch, and even that was fading.
Yep.
As I watched, it turned into a small scar and disappeared.
So cool.
And Percy's like, I don't get it. Like, he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And Annabeth is thinking so hard that Percy could almost see the gears turning in her brain. And she looks down at his feet and then at Clarice's broken spear and tells Percy, "Step out of the water." Yeah. He's like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Just do it." And so he walks out of the creek and immediately feels bone tired. His arms start to go numb again. The adrenaline rush fully leaves his body, and he almost falls over, but Annabeth steadies him. And she says, "Oh, Styx, this is not good. I didn't win. I assumed it would be Zeus." To which I just want to be like, Annabeth, girl, he set the bathroom.
Right.
Like, he exploded the bathroom.
The puzzle pieces are there.
Like, and I don't know if she would have known that he's excelling at canoeing.
Right.
But I just wanted to be like, what is your evidence for Zeus?
Right.
Because there is, like, no evidence.
I think it's just that she knew Thalia, and I also think she didn't want it because Athena and Poseidon are rivals. Like, I think that's literally the only thing. Is she just doesn't want it. And so she's like, and she was friends with the Zeus kid already.
She's just not seeing, like, the evidence.
So she's just like, it should be this, it should be this.
For me, I'm like, you were friends with a Zeus kid, so you would know all of the signs of a Zeus kid. And Percy has none of them. Yeah. Because he's not Zeus's kid. That was a moment where I was like, how on earth could you have thought, after seeing what he did in the bathroom, that he was in any way, like, unless you were somehow trying to be like, water, rain, storm, you know? But I just don't think she's thinking like that.
I just think it's wishful thinking.
Yeah.
I just think she's kind of deluding herself. One thing real quick I just realized, though, that Clarice could have done that would have been a better strategy, as I'm seeing Annabeth look at the spear and then look at the water, is all Clarice needs to do is throw or stick the spear into the creek.
Oh, totally. And
Percy just gets electrocuted. He's covered with metal too.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And that's all she needs to do. So anyway, notes. Just as someone who has no expertise in battle whatsoever, those are my notes for Clarice on this battle. So at this point, Annabeth is the only one who's realizing who Percy's dad is, because everyone else is obviously focused on, just like who won and the capture the flag. Totally. And we don't get a chance to have either of those things continue, because we hear the canine growl again, but much closer than before. A howl ripped through the forest, and the campers' cheering died instantly. Chiron shouted something in ancient Greek, which I would realize only later I had understood perfectly. "Stand ready, my bow!" Which I want to hear that in Greek. Annabeth draws her sword. We go from game fighting to serious time.
Yes.
Very quickly. And there on the rocks just above us was a black hound the size of a rhino, which is large.
Huge. That's massive.
That's a large hound with lava red eyes. Fun. And fangs like daggers, and it was looking straight at Percy.
Yeah. And nobody moves except for Annabeth, who yells, "Percy, run!"
Yeah.
And she tries to step in front of him, which I was like, wow, that's so sweet.
I mean, she's a hero.
And also,
at the end of the day,
I was like, it was a real moment of her battle instincts, because I feel like she's such a strategy brain, person but that was a moment of but
she's a great fighter.
Well, yes. And has all those same instincts of and now
experience.
It's time for battle.
If anyone other than maybe Luke or something is experienced at fighting and fighting monsters, it's going to be Annabeth.
Yes, absolutely. And it felt like this was that moment where she was kind of that it felt like this protective moment of Percy's too brand new to this to know how to handle this, so I'm going to jump in front of him and try, but the hellhound is too fast and it leaps straight over her. He describes it as an enormous shadow with teeth, and just as it hits Percy, he stumbles backward and feels its razor sharp claws ripping through his armor, and then there was a sound of cascading thwacking noises.
Thwacking is a great word.
A thwack,
underused word,
and a very underused word.
Thwacking.
These thwacking sounds like 40 pieces of paper being ripped one after another, which just made me realize I've never heard the sound of 40 arrows being launched at the same time. But it's sounding like 40 pieces of paper being ripped one after another is such a interesting description.
Totally.
And from the hound's neck sprouted a cluster of arrows, and the monster fell dead at his feet. And Percy says, by some miracle, I was still alive. I didn't want to look underneath the ruins of my shredded armor. My chest felt warm and wet, and I knew I was badly cut. Another second, and the monster would have turned me into 100 pounds of delicatessen meat, which is terrifying.
Also great. Another one of those little, very specific little descriptions. It's kind of funny in a serious situation.
Yeah. But this is such a deeply terrifying moment. It just made me so excited for Battle of the Labyrinth when we meet Mrs. O'Reilly, right?
Yeah.
No.
O'Reilly.
Yeah, Mrs. O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Because I love her.
Totally.
She's so sweet.
That's
so
true.
And it's nice to have a nice hellhound.
Yeah, I do like that we get that. I do like that we get that. Also, Chiron is incredible here. You get to really see, because he's not, the center of any of the fights most of the time, or he's not going to save the day all the time. But this is kind of a moment where he just steps in and takes out the whole hellhound all on his own, and it's really impressive.
Well, I think I assumed that other campers. Also, that it wasn't
maybe it's multiple people shooting arrows.
I assumed
I was picturing
that
Chiron just pulling out a ton of arrows and just boom,
and
you
just
know,
taking it.
I don't know. If I vibrate,
yeah.
I think that's fun. But yeah, maybe
I always imagined it as like Chiron being like everyone with me, and then like Apollo kids.
Maybe everybody does,
you know,
and
a couple other
time.
kids who like to use a bow and arrow are all kind of helping.
Yeah. Well, it's not clarified, so everyone can imagine it however they want.
Yeah, exactly. And Chiron trots up next to both of them. His face is grim, and Annabeth says that's a hellhound from the fields of punishment. They're not supposed to. And Chiron says someone summoned it. Someone inside the camp. And what's interesting in this moment is that Luke comes over, the banner in his hand forgotten, his moment of glory gone. And he doesn't say anything, but he comes over and joins them.
Well, I think what's interesting from a writing perspective is that Chiron says someone inside the camp, and then the next word in the book is Luke. I think that's kind of
absolutely.
fun. And then we get an immediate red herring I was talking about earlier where Clarice yells, it's all Percy's fault. Percy summoned it. And she's obviously just like really angry and upset about the spear and losing the game and all the things. But from the writing perspective, it's fun because you get the name of the actual person right after someone summoned it. And then you get the immediate red herring of like whoever is accusing someone is always then going to be like, you're going to be suspicious of them, right? Because you're like, why would you make that accusation, you know?
Yes. Yeah. But Chiron tells her to be quiet, and they all watch the body of the hellhound melt into shadow, soaking into the ground until it disappeared. And Annabeth immediately then tells Percy, you're wounded, quick, get in the water. And he goes, I'm okay. She's like, no, you're not. Chiron, watch this. And he's too tired to argue, so he steps back into the creek, and the whole camp gathers around him, and instantly he feels better, and he can feel the cuts on his chest closing up, and some of the campers gasped. And he's like, look, I don't know why, I'm sorry, again apologizing, so much apologizing.
I'm sorry for healing.
I know. But then he realizes that they weren't watching his wounds heal, they were staring at something above his head. Annabeth says, Percy, pointing above his head. And by the time I looked up, the sign was already fading, but I could still make out the hologram of green light spinning and gleaming, a 3-tipped spear, a trident. And Annabeth murmurs, your father, this is really not good. And then I feel like Chiron puts on like official voice and goes, it is determined, announcing. And all the campers, including the whole Ares cabin, even though they don't look happy about it, start to kneel. And Percy's like, my father? What? He's so bewildered, he's so thrown off. And then Chiron very formally announces, Poseidon, Earthshaker, Stormbringer, father of horses, hail Percy Jackson, son of the sea god.
So good.
And that's where we end the chapter.
I love it. I drew a trident at the end and I was like, let's go.
Nice. I also wrote, let's go at the end of the chapter.
I love that. Because this is like, you know, this is the thing. This is what we've all been leading up to.
Yeah.
Who is Percy's dad? We have our answer. We get a sense of his powers. We're ready to go questing. We're getting there. We're getting somewhere. And it's a very exciting moment. It's a very epic moment. This chapter has some very epic moments. We get the Luke Percy battle. We get the story of Talia, fighting to the end, becoming the tree. We get capture the flag. We get a hellhound in camp. We get Percy being claimed. This is an action-packed chapter.
Yes, truly. And what I was just thinking about that's really fun about the specific what's the word for it, but like descriptors I guess that we get for Poseidon, like what he is. It's not necessarily what he's the god of, it's almost he is Earthshaker,
like his
Stormbringer, father of horses. It's, to me, I was like, oh, it's so fun because like father of horses, we're gonna meet Blackjack and he's gonna understand that relationship. Earthshaker, Battle of Labyrinth, he's going to shake the earth and explode the volcano. And then Stormbringer, when he like becomes the hurricane, like in the 5th book, it's like so fun because I realized cool. like we'll actually see Percy and how he gets like all of those powers essentially from his dad, true. And we'll see him like utilize all of those powers.
Them. Yeah,
which
that is really cool.
It's very fun. Yeah,
that's really cool, and is a nice loophole. I've always felt is like I can't fly in the sky unless it's on a horse. So I do appreciate that we get the loophole in that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I love this chapter. I was anticipating it. It totally delivered. It was very satisfying. Any final thoughts? I feel like we're always here with like the themes or the big thoughts. Any final thoughts we haven't talked about?
Yeah, I mean, this really is such a like jam-packed, action-packed chapter. That feels like it feels like this is the chapter, and I know I already kind of said this at the beginning, but it feels like the chapter that's tying up pretty much all the loose ends that were established in those first like 2 chapters, like all those big questions, all of those things. This feels like it's kind of, we're wrapping up most of that, except for obviously like, you know, the last little thread of the Oracle and the quest, which we're about to get into. But it feels like it's the last chapter that answers the biggest of the questions, and really like sets us up for what's next, and like what is to come, which is so exciting.
And another one where we get told what happens very close to the end at the beginning, where we capture a flag,
but in like a different way. Like it's actually kind of concealing the biggest reveal of the chapter, which is Percy finally getting his confirmation.
Because it's not like,
or not even confirmation, but he gets his answer, because I don't get the sense that Percy even had Poseidon.
Oh no! At the end, he's still going on his mind, completely bewildered. Right. Like I'm like, come on, dude.
I know.
All right.
But yeah, I think for me, I just would have loved to. I would love to like know, like Chiron before that moment was like when that trident appeared. Did Chiron just go like? And here we go. Like, was like, did Chiron kind of already know? And he just went, okay,
maybe.
And now it's confirmed.
I think it's very
like
possible.
Now everyone else knows. I'm very curious about that. But yeah, and it is interesting that to get in the same chapter that we get the reveal of who his father is, that we also got all of that explanation of the fact that like he shouldn't have been born, you know, like that there was this pact and that it's very dangerous. Like we get the threat of what it is to be a child of the big 3, and then we get fun, capture the flag, and oh, it's a little scary, capture the flag. And it's kind of like you forget a little bit that you've got the like it's deeply dangerous to be a child of the big 3 and they're not allowed to exist, and then at the end of that same chapter it's like, hey, guess what,
you exist.
Poseidon also.
But it's good, like it sets up the stakes, right? I think it's a good way to really set up the stakes for what Percy's going to deal with for 5 books. So.
The question that I had, that I forgot that I didn't ask in that part was, so when the gods made that pact post World War II, did both their Greek and Roman selves make that pact? I was trying to remember in Heroes of Olympus.
Good question.
If Jason also has the like I'm not supposed to exist thing, because I know with the Romans, like the Romans don't really like Poseidon, like they never had a name, like so Poseidon is like not.
It might not be as relevant. Yeah, I guess that's a good question too. Like were the Roman demigods also fighting in World War II, or was it just the Greek demigods?
Right, because by that point they were already separated, and Hazel was born way prior to the pact. So Jason would have been the only one on the Roman side.
Like my guess is that it should apply across the board, unless.
But is it like the God's way of like I was crossing my fingers behind my back, like my Roman side didn't agree?
Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, only Talia counts. That's why Jason couldn't have been the kid of the prophecy, I guess. That would be interesting.
But yeah, I don't remember if we get that like clarified or not.
No, that's interesting. We should pay attention to that, because then it would be like Jason could have been the kid, right?
Right. Like there are all these hyper specific things that are like questions that I never have when I'm just like rereading the books for fun, but taking it so slowly, just like one chapter at a time, having to pay attention to every tiny thing.
What about this? What about that?
But what, like, yeah. So that was the one question that I had, was if
that's a good question.
The Roman gods.
We should pay attention for that.
If it counted for them as well or not. I don't remember.
Oh, we'll pay attention to that moving forward.
I guess if I would have to say, I think the theme of this chapter feels the most like Percy really experiencing community, like at Camp Half-Blood. Like, even though there is that belonging. Like Clarice continuing the bullying, like I think this is the chapter where he feels like that sense of community and belonging, and it becoming as routine as like any other home could become for him. But then it all changes, and right in that moment when he feels the most, I belong here, I've kind of settled in, people aren't staring at me quite as much. It's all about
the staring has just begun.
Yep.
Aww. Yeah. Well, we're gonna get to see how everybody reacts to this revelation in the next chapter. So this was super fun, and we will see you all next time when we enter chapter 9. I am offered a quest. Bye.
Bye.